Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Buckeye Huddle live postgame show. I am Mark Givler. Ohio State putting the finishing touches on a 14-7 win over Texas in Ohio Stadium. Huge win for the Buckeyes to start the season over the number one ranked Longhorns. And certainly you would expect now when the polls come out early this week that maybe Ohio State will be the new number one in the country. I picked Texas by a point, so I got to wear it. I thought this would be a coin flip game. And it was for the most part, but Ohio State made all the key plays, it felt like, throughout the game, whether it was a key fourth down or getting a turnover, converting on third and short, fourth and short if you're Ohio State. It just felt like there were 5 or 6 key plays in this game, and like all of them went Ohio State's way in terms of their abilities to come up in the clutch and make big plays. So huge opening season win for Ohio State. I'm trying to remember a season opening win like this. There's been a few big ones. Notre Dame at one point. I know they've had some big openers in the past, but this one just coming off a national championship with all these new questions. You got 2 new coordinators. You got new defensive line, new player, kind of new configuration on the offensive line. Julian Sayin making his first start, really his first meaningful action. And to watch this all come together and kind of play the way they played today, just extremely impressed with the effort from the Buckeyes. So they're about, again, one more snap here to put the finishing touches on a 14-7 win. Hope everyone's blood pressure is down. Like I know it got a little dicey there at the end. It looked like it was in the bag at 14-0. Got a little bit uncomfortable there at the end. But CJ Hicks, we've wondered all off season if the CJ Hicks stuff would actually be real this year. We kind of heard some things in the past couple off seasons about how they're going to use CJ Hicks. It never really came to fruition. Today, especially in the second half, he got a lot of run as they were trying to get into to get in there and disrupt Arch Manning with the lead, knowing Texas was going to have to throw the ball a little bit more. Getting CJ Hicks in there as like an extra pass rusher. He comes up huge, is able to bother. I'm actually amazed Manning got that pass off, almost had the sack, was able to bother Manning enough to disrupt the timing of the play. Caleb Downs, of course, there making the short tackle, short of the first down line. And the Buckeyes have run the clock out. So 14-7 Ohio State. Down goes number 1 Texas. Another win for Ohio State over the SEC. So all sorts of good news there for Ohio State to start the season. And what a way to start a national championship. We can't call it a defense. Ryan Day won't let me call it a defense. It's not a title defense because they can't take last year's trophy away. I know, but what a way to start a potential repeat season. We'll call it that. How about that? Lots to talk about here. We will, of course, have Ryan Day and players and all the press conferences afterwards. Then, of course, I will be handing it off to Tony Gerdeman and Tom Moore after that. But lots to talk about here as we look at the Ohio State drive chart. Some sustained possessions there. I thought the one thing that was interesting, no 3 and outs there in the first half. They didn't have a 3 and out. I don't think it was either late in the third quarter or early in the fourth. It was well into the second half. Or I'm sorry, it was the opener of the second half till they had a 3 and out. So they did a good job there of not with the defenses being so heavily relied on today. They did a good job at least of getting some first downs and kind of not putting the defense back out there right away very often. So that was a good job there. I don't know what you can really say about Julian Sayin other than that was a tremendous first start. He was much better than the stats are going to look for him at the end of this game. Some drops against him. There was obviously a bit of a conservative game plan today, which I think just kind of continued to manifest itself as the game stayed in Ohio State's control. I don't think there was any reason. I don't think Ohio State felt there was reason to really do too much more once they got that lead. But it was really impressive to see Julian Sayin come out the way he threw the ball early in the game with timing, with accuracy. This was a guy who looked very much ready for the moment, was not overwhelmed by the atmosphere, was not overwhelmed by nerves, was not listening to the noise of the Texas defense, of the Arch Manning hype coming into the game. I think there's their offense is going to be a work in progress. You've got a whole new offensive line combination. You're working in Max Claire's your brand new tight end. You've got a brand new quarterback. You've got brand new running backs. This is always going to be a team that the offense we expect to be better in October than it is today. And so there will be some things we can nitpick about the offense today. Again, a bit of a conservative game plan with the young quarterback. Offensive line at times was not holding up, especially in the run game, not getting a lot of push in the run game. But at the end of the day, I think the one thing that would have made people nervous moving forward about the offense is if Julian Sayin looked unprepared, and that was far from the truth. Julian Sayin looked very prepared. That is great news moving forward. I think this is definitely the best defense they're going to face this year, certainly the best defensive front seven they're going to face this year. So to come out of the chute like that and to look prepared, to look like the moment is not too big for you, to not be overwhelmed by all the stuff around this game, that is tremendous news, I think, for Ohio State moving forward, that their young quarterback was able to overcome all that and put together a solid performance today. Let's go to the 3 and out, my top 3 things from the game. There were so many things I could have picked here. So people are going to be like, well, what about this or what about that? I agree. There's probably, this could have been like a 6 and out, but we'll start with Sayin being ready for the moment, as we just talked about here for the past minute or two. The accuracy with which he threw the ball, like there were some really stressful moments that he either made the right decision to throw it away or to kind of throw it at a receiver's feet versus forcing something. The throw out of the end zone to Carnell Tate, I thought was huge. I know that drive ultimately didn't result in points, but that could have been a really, really dicey situation there for Ohio State. And you've got him rolling out, being chased in the end zone. There's safety, fumble, interception. There's a lot of, even an incompletion where you're punting from the shadow of your own goalposts. There were 5 or 6 things that could happen there, and all but one of them were bad. And he was able to make that throw to Carnell Tate, which was obviously a tremendous catch and play by Carnell Tate as well. But just a beautiful throw there, a tremendous play under pressure by Sayin. So again, there were 0. I didn't see one sign today of nerves. Not one. I didn't see a single instance today where I thought, oh, that was the nerves. That was the inexperience. That was the pressure of the moment. I never saw that today out of Julian Sayin. And again, I thought his numbers did not even tell the full story today with some of the drops and just the general conservative game plan. But man, was he rock solid today with his accuracy, his timing, his decision-making. Great news for Ohio State moving forward. Next, won't be the next couple games, but maybe Washington, which I think will be a good game. They're going to have him pull some of those. Those were straight gives today. I think that's almost a certainty. Those were not reads. Ryan Day has historically leaned on just taking the read out of it, and there's no reason to think in today's game that Julian Sayin had the ability to run the zone read there in the run game. But at some point this year, he's going to have to pull one of those, because that was maybe my one thing about the offense today is I think every time he handed it off where he could have pulled it, that was 8 to 15 yards waiting to happen. They never had him pull it, which, I guess they just wanted to kind of, again, put the game in the hands of their running backs versus having Sayin take hits or, have him doing too much in terms of reading the defense and just kind of letting that be a called give. But so much to like there from Julian Sayin today. Matt Patricia. Look, it's one game. Let's not completely crush everyone who was kind of anti-Matt Patricia hire, but you could. This went as well as it could have for Matt Patricia. This was a masterpiece for Matt Patricia. He everyone's there's a large contingent in college football that thinks Steve Sarkisian is the best play caller in college football. Well, Matt Patricia won that chess match convincingly today. That was a absolute masterpiece. They did a tremendous job disguising their coverages in the secondary pre-snap. Were able to move into things post-snap, kept Arch Manning confused, kept Sarkisian as a play caller off balance. all the things I was told for 2 years that Larry Johnson wouldn't allow Jim Knowles to do, like simulated pressures and odd man fronts and all this other stuff. They were doing that today. So, I think we can put to bed that kind of urban legend that, Larry Johnson was secretly undermining Jim Knowles, and Jim Knowles just didn't have the freedom to do any of that. We saw some of those things from Matt Patricia today. We saw him unleash CJ Hicks. We saw him unleash Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese in pass rushing situations. That was just a masterful game plan. Matt Patricia's inheriting a lot of talent here, but you still have to coordinate it. You still have to make the right calls. You still have to coach it and just coach it all up. So unbelievable job there by Matt Patricia. And he gets my game ball. So we'll go to that real quick. My game ball, Matt Patricia. Again, four punts forced, 0-2, Texas scoreless in the red zone. You had the fourth down. So you had several fourth down stops. You got the turnover, nearly a second one on the Styles near interception there late in the game. Again, this was a tremendous performance. And what I noticed beyond just like the way he was disguising coverages and kind of does some of the things he differed in with the odd man fronts and things like that, but seemed more complex, a lot more movement from pre-snap look to post-snap. Just felt like a much more complex defense than what Jim Knowles ran the last couple of years at Ohio State. Again, I think the experience in his back seven does allow him to do that. But look, they were experienced last year on defense, and they didn't give all those different looks last year. So this was a brilliant performance by Matt Patricia against maybe the most talented offense they will play this year. They will play some other very good offenses. Penn State, of course. I think Washington's going to have a good offense this year. We will see kind of if they're able to get it into like a Big Ten championship situation or playoff situation. Certainly at that point, they'll be facing another good offense. But this is arguably the most talented offense they will face this year. And again, I think Matt Patricia just felt a step or two ahead the entire way. And that was not a concern of mine, but just kind of an unknown. We didn't know exactly how Julian Sayin would perform, how Matt Patricia would look, how Brian Hartline's offense. There were so many things here: the new defensive line, new offensive line combo, the new running backs. There were 6 or 7 unknowns here for Ohio State, and I think even if you're not an optimistic, like some fans always kind of look at it as kind of a glass half empty. Even if you're glass half empty, as a rule, I think you have to look at the unknowns coming into this game and feel really good about most of them coming out of this game. So that's a huge positive again for Ohio State. So game ball, Matt Patricia, that's good of a defensive coordinator performance as I think Ohio State defensive coordinators had in recent memory. I really do. I think there were some very good ones last year. I'm not trying to take away. This isn't like crap on Jim Knowles post-game show, but like this was a brilliant defensive game plan. It was a brilliantly called game by Matt Patricia. And again, staying a step ahead of a guy who is considered by many to be the best play caller in the country in Steve Sarkisian. My last thing on the 3 and out was Arvell's arrival. Arvell Reese unleashed today. Credit to Matt Patricia for allowing him to putting him in those positions. But Arvell Reese, I think, became a star today. We've been talking about him all off season. As we obviously talked highly of him last year. He was very, very good as like their number 3 linebacker last year. But we've been talking about him all off season as a guy who's going to make that leap this year to stardom. That is certainly that has certainly looked like it was the case today. A tremendous game from him. Some very key tackles, some big hits, disruptive as a pass rusher. Was sound in coverage. I mean, if there's one thing you're going to wonder about Arvell Reese is like he's so aggressive, he's so north and south. Can you get him into trouble in coverage? That didn't happen today either. He was very disciplined. This is a guy who I think has a chance to sort of come out of nowhere and be in the Buckeyes discussion. Like he's a guy who I don't think many people are saying, a week ago, or was like, yeah, this is a guy to watch for the Buckeyes this year, like around the country nationally. I think this is a guy who can play his way into that discussion. I think this was a great first start. And so big time performance from Arvell Reese. I told you it was just a real hardship for me to cut this to three things for my 3 and out, but we call it the 3 and out for a reason. But I'm going to cheat a little bit. I do have to throw Caleb Downs in here. The short tackling today, oh my goodness, he had so many key tackles today, whether it be fourth down stops, third down stops to force punts, stops where if he doesn't make the stop, it's 12, 15 yards instead of 3, 4, 5 yards. So many big plays from Caleb Downs. And again, the game sealer at the end there after a brilliant job by CJ Hicks to disrupt Arch Manning. Manning still gets the ball off to the tight end. It's, Downs is given up conservatively probably 30 to 40 pounds there, maybe even more than that. And the tight end, when he caught the ball, was not able to advance the football. He needed to advance it about 2 yards. He wasn't able to advance it a foot, let alone 2 yards. Caleb Downs stood him up. Just tremendous leg drive and strength there by the best defensive player in college football. So the Buckeyes got what they needed, I thought, from the guys they needed it from. They needed Caleb Downs to be great. He was great. They needed Arvell Reese to kind of turn this hype into the production he turned it into today. They needed these defensive tackles to win at the line of scrimmage, which they consistently did. They got a lot of good stuff out of Cade McDonald and Edric Houston today. Cade McDonald had a career high in tackles in the first half before the game. So his career high, as Tony German pointed out on X, was 3 tackles. He had 5 in the first half. Edric Houston made some splash plays. They got some good minutes in the second half out of Will Smith Jr., and were able to overcome some injury to Kenyatta Jackson there at the end. It sounds like he's going to be fine, just kind of precautionary there. They got some good snaps out of Bo Atkinson there in relieving Kenyatta Jackson. So, and then they got the mistake-free football from their quarterback. So, like, the things that they needed to go their way today went their way. They not just went their way by luck or chance. They created this for themselves today. They forced the issue defensively and were able to win those battles. Julian Sayin, no luck involved there. That was pure preparation and just being cool, calm, and collected. Again, brilliant performance by Ohio State today, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And again, we'll be talking offense, I'm sure, throughout the week. What can they do better? What can they do differently? We'll get into all that. But, this is the best defense they're going to play all year. It's the opener. You have a quarterback who's never taken a meaningful snap, being protected by not a brand new offensive line, but an offensive line that's got essentially 4 new starters in terms of where they're playing. So it's a totally reshuffled offensive line with some new faces, new tight end, new backs that are trying to help you with pass protection. So all sorts of things to consider, I think, for the offensive performance. So we'll kind of see how that evolves moving forward. I don't know how much we'll learn the next 2. Certainly not against Grambling, probably not against OU, but certainly Washington. I think Washington's a sneaky, very tough game. I think Washington's got a chance to be an 8 or 9 win team this year. So I think and that's a great atmosphere out there. So I think that's going to be a big one on the road there. I think let's see kind of what they look like for that. But here's a kind of stats comparison. Texas does win the total yards battle. A lot of that was late, fourth quarter. Ohio State's protecting a lead. Texas kind of throwing it downfield. So a little bit skewed there on the total yards, but it was a very even game. I thought Ohio State just made the big plays at the big times. Red zone's always huge. I always say time of possession is kind of overrated. I always kind of the thing I always look at is red zone. Can you convert in the red zone? And specifically, can you convert your red zone opportunities into touchdowns? And so Ohio State goes 1 for 1, 100%. Texas 0%. That's the difference in the game. I mean, that's flat out. Ohio State getting their touchdown in the red zone. Texas getting in there twice, not converting, was the story of the game. I think there's a chance maybe they play this game 10 times. Maybe Texas wins 5, but they didn't today. Ohio State made all the plays at all the right times. It deserved to win this game. They were the team that made the plays when they needed to be made. And so, getting an 8-yard gain on 1st and 10 is all in good. What are you doing on 4th and 2, 4th and 3, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1? And are you making the most of your opportunities in the red zone? Ohio State did those things today. Texas didn't. And that's why Ohio State won the game and deserved to win the game. So we will have some post game here shortly. We are in line. We have cameras in both rooms, so we'll have access to Ohio State's postgame with Ryan Day, of course. We will have access to Steve Sarkisian's postgame at Texas. We'll see how they come out and how things go. We'll do our best to quarterback this from here and steer you guys where we think you want to go. But we will be ready for both of those post games as they are going. As you can kind of see here on the side of the screen, we do have both. In case you didn't believe me, we do have visual of both post games. But yeah, this is let us know. Hey, let me take this minute here. I never do this. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. This helps other Ohio State fans who may be interested in this content find us. We are amazed by your support throughout this whole thing we've been doing here, but especially this last couple of weeks. Here's Ryan Day.
Sark and what they do, a great team. But I also want to thank the fans. What an unbelievable atmosphere. From, driving in this morning from my house, seeing everybody at game day, at big noon kickoff, seeing people around the stadium, tailgating, and then the atmosphere in the stadium when we came out for warm-ups. I mean, there wasn't very many empty seats. And for a noon kickoff, to have that many people in the stadium was amazing. And so for an atmosphere like that, week one, to bring everybody together was great for our team. And I think it made a huge difference in the fourth quarter. So I want to thank, I say all the time, it takes everybody. And the fans certainly brought it today. And man, I'm just proud of our guys. Just a gritty win to start the season.
All righty, we'll start here in the front row with Tim May. Tim,
Ryan, you said all week, all that matters is the win, right? And number one, you got that accomplished. Like you said, it was a nitty-gritty game. But number two, how did Julian Sayin handle the pressure? He seemed pretty poised out there.
I agree. I said in the locker room, I thought he handled himself well. I thought he took care of the ball, made some throws when he needed to. A couple of times when it wasn't there, he did not force it. Could we have opened it up more in the second half? Yeah, but I thought Brian called an unselfish game. I thought the defense was playing well. When we got the ball back on the 10-yard line there with 8 minutes to go, we ended up running off about 4 minutes off the clock. And we thought that was important. We talked about it this week. In week one, we can't beat ourselves. We wanted to let them beat us. And, for a first-time starter, you just don't want to put them in that situation. So hindsight says we did the right thing, but you're never too sure. But I thought the drive that the offense had there in the first half, I think we ate up over 8 minutes off the clock, which was part of the game plan, because we wanted to keep their offense off the field, and then to finish it with that 4th and 1 was big, and then the play by Carnell. But the story of the game was the defense. Matt, I thought, put a good game plan together. The coaches put a good game plan together, but the grittiness of our guys running around. There's a lot we can build on here, a lot we have to improve on. The team you see right now will not even be close to the team you see halfway through the season or at the end of the year, but it certainly makes the corrections a lot easier to make after a win against a top 5 opponent like this.
We'll go right over here to the right, Spencer Holbrook.
Ryan, I know that you don't look at it in terms of validation, but with Matt and the way that his defense performed today, what were just general thoughts on how great they were? And does it kind of show I kind of made the right move here, bringing Matt in?
Well, we have to prove ourselves every time we're in that arena. So that's just what you do. When you stop feeling like you have to prove yourself, then you stop improving. And so that's the way we feel. But all that being said, I know what kind of a coach Matt is because I see him every day. You guys don't. So that's the thing about football. I share that with the guys. All the work that you put in the dark doesn't come to light until his first game, And that's sometimes a sobering thing about football. You put all this work in just to give you a chance, and then you have X number of plays to go make it happen. But that's what competitive excellence is. And again, a great start. I thought the game plan was excellent, but the buy-in is what's most important. Plays are plays, scheme is scheme. But what matters is the guys and the Warriors on the field, believing in it and the work that's put in. I can't tell you how much time Larry Johnson and James Laurinaitis and Matt and Tim Walton. How about the DBs and Jermaine and IGB making that play down there on the end zone? These guys, they work their tails off to prepare their players and to grade out a champion to do their job. And a lot of guys did their job. Again, was it perfect? No. There's a lot of things that we got to improve on, a ton, but at least we have a starting point.
All right, we're going to go over here to the right for 2 questions. First one to Patrick Murphy and then to Jake Trotter. Patrick, go ahead.
Ryan, you said a couple of times there's stuff to improve on. Is one of the higher up things getting the run game going a bit more?
We'll have to look at the film and see. I mean, that's a stout front. There was a lot of guys in there, and when we play them again, I don't think it's going to look the same way. But we were leaning on some of our tight ends in there, and there was some good runs in there. I gotta really look hard now at the film and see, where things didn't go perfect, because we were pretty tied in on both edges there, and so those are downhill runs. We're looking to really get physical and push guys around, but I do think that we were getting movement out there. It was not a high scoring game. I think we had 4 possessions in the first half. When it's time to spread everybody out and air it out, we'll do that and create more space. But this is a team that has great teams, a defense that has great team speed. And so we took that into consideration, putting the game plan together. It certainly wasn't perfect, but it's a start.
Yeah, Ryan, the 4th down stops were a big difference in this game. What does that say about your defense, especially with so many new starters going forward?
Situational football becomes big, and when you're huddling and slowing the game down, sort of like we are, that means the situations become more and more critical. And understanding what that is and spending time on these situations is what we do, and making sure that we're prepared for them. But you got to go do it. And every time you get a 4th down stop, it's like a turnover. So the interception was huge. But when you start getting 4th down stops at midfield, those flip the entire field, and it's like getting a turnover. So how many 4th down stops? Do we have 3? 4. There you go. The one to end the game, but 3 before that's almost 4 turnovers, and that plays into it. And there was that opportunity we had early in the game on that 4th down. And that was the other thing with Julian, early on, I thought he threw some good balls. We actually had a few drops, which is rare around here. And that may have been a different game. You just never know how it starts or how it's going to finish. But yeah, no, those 4th down stops were big.
Okay, we're going to go over here to Austin Ward. Before we do that, we're going to send Carnell Tate and Luke Montgomery to the back. So we'd like to talk to Carnell and Luke. They'll be in the back. We'll go over here to Austin Ward.
Mentioned the drops, and so Julian's numbers obviously could have looked a little bit different early. I want to pair that with the idea that you said that by the middle of this season that the offense is going to look much different. How much going into this game for Julian's first start, the talent of Texas, how much could you have reasonably put him out there to execute at this point? How much further is there to go? Because I imagine it's quite a lot.
Yeah, a ton. But I thought I was impressed with his poise. He had a good look in his eye, and what he was saying and what he was seeing was exactly what was going on. That's a great sign. I remember CJ's first start. I remember Justin's first start. And when I mean first start, like, in big games, Dwayne, Kyle, Will was different because he'd played a lot of football. But when you have that first start and you're out there, there are so many things to take into consideration. When you're the quarterback at Ohio State and you're playing number 1 Texas against one of the top defenses in the country, which we have a tremendous amount of respect for, like, the one thing we didn't want to do, and I didn't want to do, was put him in a bad spot. It's just not fair to him. Now, coming out of it, quite honestly, I think he probably could have handled it, but we weren't going to do that because we know it's a long season, and that was the decision that was made. And so we'll go from here.
We got time for a couple more. We'll go over here to Bill Rabinowitz.
Ryan, this team has said from the start that they were not defending national champions. This was a whole new team.
Yeah.
What kind of a statement do you think you made today?
Well, we said that we want to set the tone. When you start a season, you want to set the tone for the season. And there's a lot of guys who are stepping into roles for the first time ever. And for these guys to step in and really have a great energy about them, I thought they were poised. I thought the moment was not too big for them. And maybe just because of the run that we went on last year and those guys being in those games, or even for the guys who weren't being a part of it, like take a guy like Devin Sanchez who played today. He was with us for those 2 weeks, so he saw what it was like. I don't think those guys batted an eye. Peyton Pierce played well. I got to watch the film and see, but there was good play across the board, and it's a reference point as we move forward for the first game of the year. I mean, listen, when I looked at the schedule and I said, okay, you open up with Texas at home with a freshman or with a young quarterback, it was like, okay, it might be nice to have a few non-conference games to lead up to the season. But, as we got closer, it was just like, you know what, this is actually a great way to start because everyone's got to be on their game. Preseason, as we talked about, July was edgy. August was edgy. We knew we had to bring it this first game. And then I think they fed off the crowd. I mean, the crowd was strong today. And so this is their team. This is their story. And here's the first chapter.
Julian didn't have a lot of experience coming in, obviously, but either did Arch, really. How much he looked confused at times. What was the game plan against him?
No, he's going to be a great player and is a great player. We just felt like in week one that, we didn't want to beat ourselves. So we took that into consideration in everything that we did. And then knowing there's contingency plans in place. I mean, if we were down 2 scores, this call sheet had all kinds of different contingency plans. Well, it's the same thing on defense. And, he is going to be a great quarterback and is a tremendous talent. But, in anybody you play in that first week, you just don't want to beat yourself. And then you go from there. But he made some really good throws there in the fourth quarter, and you can see the talent. But give our defense credit.
All right, we got 2 more over here. First, Stefan, and then to Bill Landis. Stefan, go ahead.
Ryan, what stood out to you about kind of the different ways that Arvell impacted the game specifically, especially there in the first half? And also, do you have an update on Kenyatta Jackson?
Yeah, Kenyatta, I don't think I can come up and say what exactly it was, but they took his helmet away, and we'll kind of evaluate how that is moving forward, but I don't see it being a long-term injury. For Arvell has a lot of versatility. When you get up on Arvell, you can just see he has all the traits it takes to be a dominant linebacker. And so what I saw out there today was a guy who was running sideline to sideline from the linebacker position at the second level. But then also you saw him at the end when KJ went down, he was playing up front, rushing the passer and putting pressure on the quarterback. So he can do all those things. This is probably the most he's played in a big game like this, and he'll learn a lot from this. We'll see how he grades out.
All right, wrap it up with Bill Landis.
What you're talking about with the offensive game plan, playing slower, playing a little ball control. It feels like the trade-off there needs to be confidence in your defense to stand up in a game when 2 touchdowns gives you the win. What gave you that confidence that the defense was going to be able to do that today?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I played this game out in my head every day for the last 3 months. And I didn't know how it was going to go, because when you're going against yourself every day and you have inexperienced players that haven't actually done it on the field, you're not sure. I had an idea how it looked, but I wasn't sure. So what I was trying to do early in the game was get a feel for what was going on. How was our defense holding up front? What kind of rhythm were they in? How fast were they playing? What did we look like in terms of the front on offense? Were we moving the line of scrimmage? How were the running backs running? Brand new running backs. Were they taking care of the football? How was Julian handling it? What were they doing on defense? And then as the first quarter kind of went on, I could see us, getting off the field on defense. I felt like we were moving the line of scrimmage. We had that big drive. We did get, screwed down inside the 10-yard line early on. And you could see we decided at one point to take a play action shot, which almost had turned into a disaster. But other than that, we were fairly conservative because we felt like our defense was playing well. And that was the I will say this, at halftime, up 7, coming out, I thought we could go and really flip the scoreboard. We didn't do that. And then as that third quarter wore down, it was like, okay, I feel like our defense can hang in there as long as we don't give them anything cheap on offense. So that's how we played this game. We'll see how the next one goes.
All right, Coach, thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Yep.
We'll bring up defensive coordinator Matt Patricia here to the main podium. We're also going to have Julian Sayin here at the podium after Coach Patricia. So we'll be quick with Coach Patricia, and then we'll bring up Julian Sayin. We'll start with Coach Patricia right here, Dylan Davis. And we're going to go over to the right there, Cameron Teague Robinson. Thank you.
Okay, how's everybody doing? Good. I think I almost worked this thing right off of my chest here, so hopefully that stays on. It's just, I guess opening statement for me would be just so proud of the players. Give all the credit to them. They're the ones that went out there and played really fast, really aggressive. Thought they tried to do everything we asked them to do. You know, they were in some tough spots. It's a really good Texas team. Arch is a great quarterback. So coming out of the gate, not really knowing what that was going to look like, you know, that was really difficult. But I'm proud of our guys for stepping up to that challenge. And you know, all the way across the board from the front end to the back end. I think those guys just did a tremendous job with the adjustments and you know, we were moving a lot of different parts on them. So it was really, really a great effort by the players.
Yeah. Matt over here. The first day we ever talked to you, I think one of the first things you talked about was the linebackers that you had here, the guys that you've had that look like what you've had in New England before. To see those guys bring around in game action for the first time, what were your thoughts on seeing
Yeah. They're big and they're fast and they can cover a lot of space. So that's a lot of fun. I think those guys, I mean, Sonny, Arvell, Peyton, all those guys when they're out there, just their ability to kind of move in space and play the game, you know, with the speed that Texas has. Texas is it's a fast team. They really do a great job. Sark does a great job of just spreading you horizontally and then the vertical shots. But those guys, it's fun. Those guys are fun football players to be around, you know, from the linebacker core. So Coach Laurinaitis does a tremendous job with them. So it was good. It's great to see him in live action.
Cameron Teague Robinson.
And Matt, it looked like you guys, I mean, disguised and did a lot of things both up front and in the secondary. When you got here and you saw the tools you had on defense, how much did that excite you, knowing that you didn't have to stick to one specific scheme? You can kind of do a lot of different things with what this group can do.
Yeah, I mean, give credit to the coaches. I mean, those guys, Coach Wall, Coach Johnson, you know, Coach G, all those guys, Coach, you know, Laurinaitis. They just really, we spent the spring kind of evaluating what do we have. You know, we got a lot of young guys. They haven't played a lot of football. So just what do they do well? How do we put them in position to play fast, play aggressive? And I thought the coaches did a great job of that and being able to move the defense in those pieces, because we know what the skill set of the players that we have are different than maybe what we had last year. And, you know, the coaches that were familiar with these guys on the staff, I think the defensive staff just, you know, give them credit for really being able to put that together like that. It was a great job by them.
Spencer?
Matt, I don't know if you saw the reaction when you were hired here. Largely negative from a lot of folks. How has that felt all offseason, kind of knowing what you were brewing in the background and to be able to unveil it with the red carpet kind of like this?
Yeah.
How's that feel for you personally right now?
Honestly, Columbus is great. Like, I mean, everyone's been so nice. I mean, honestly, I'm Northeast Italian, so I'm kind of always a little bit skeptical, but everyone's just so welcoming and kind. I've really just felt nothing but appreciation and love from everybody. So I'm so thankful to the Buckeye fans. You know, everyone, like I said, has been great. The players are great. School. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to hopefully do a good job at impacting young men and mentoring and teaching and coaching a game that I love. So that's really what I'm trying to do. So hopefully, you know, got a little bit of that done today.
We're going to go over to the left, Bill Rabinowitz, and then over here to Brendan Gulick. Bill, go ahead.
Matt, you haven't coached in college in what, 2 decades almost? What was it like for you to coach, especially have an opener against Texas and kind of what Spencer was alluding to, the pressure that was on you, replaced the guy who won a national championship?
Yeah. But, you know, always appreciative of my situation, you know, always glad to be out there to be able to coach and coach great players here at Ohio State. The thing about college, again, like I think I mentioned this during camp, I think I really appreciate those preseason games now. I really do, because there's definitely things in the game today. It's like operationally, communication-wise, and all that stuff. And, you know, the sideline gets a little nuts. There's a lot of players out there. It's not the, you know, 40-some that are in an NFL active roster. So, but like I said, just a great environment. It's loud, man. This place is loud. I love it. I absolutely love it. The fans. You don't get that kind of, you know, noise in an NFL game. So I'm super appreciative of that and play home every game. If we can figure that out, that'd be great. I'd be really excited about that. So.
All right. Last question over here to Brendan.
Matt, you've got a group that obviously is coming off a good season, and they don't have a ton of tape on this specific Texas team. And so the idea going in is play with confidence, play with speed. Specifically in the secondary, how did you feel that McClain and Downs in particular played with that in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone back there played really fast and really aggressive. I thought the communication was really good. You know, Caleb's unbelievable back there as a field general, just kind of making sure he's calling out the coverages or the adjustments or even some of the alerts, you know, that we have in those situations. And Jalen did a great job too. So that part was great, you know, to be able to see that in game action and kind of put that under our belt and improve on it as we go. was really good. But I think everyone, Jermaine obviously had a great game. IGB, those guys played, and Zoe, Lorenzo, he played really, really well back there. It's a great group, and they work really hard. Coach Walt does an unbelievable job with those guys, developing them and instilling the confidence in them. So it was fun to watch them in game speed. Like I said, Texas is fast, so they can move downfield pretty quick, and watch our guys run with that sort of speed was really good.
All right, Coach, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
a lot. I appreciate everybody.
And we'll bring
Thank
in Julian Sayin here. And when Julian gets to the podium, we'll start with Stephen Means.
Was talking about trying to not put too much on you, given this being your first start, and then he admitted that maybe you could have handled more. Just kind of evaluate your play and maybe how you handled this moment, given the magnitude of the game.
Yeah, I was just going out there and, focusing on my job. And, I think the defense played really well, obviously. And then the offensive line and the receivers and the running backs ran hard. So it kind of made my job easy, just trying to distribute the ball.
Then we're going to go over here to the left to Rob Aller.
Yeah, you showed a lot of poise out there. Was the game as slow as you'd hoped it would be? I mean, once you get into this environment, what it feel?
Yeah, I feel like I was really well prepared by my coaches. Coach Fessler and Coach Day, they do a really good job of, implementing the game plan and then, sitting and watching tape with us. So I think I was really well prepared and being able to see the looks that, we watched on tape.
Right behind him, Jeff Gilbert.
Julian, in regards to the poise, Coach was like, just win this game. Don't think about anything, expectations. How do you feel you did that? And if you did it well, is Coach Day the guy that got you there to feel that way, or did somebody else? How'd that work?
Yeah, the whole saying this week was, the only thing we expect is, just go out there and just win. That's the focus. We're not expecting to do this on offense, just go out there and win. And, a big credit to our defense, putting up a great performance and, just going out there and operating.
We're going to stay here on the left-hand side. Dan Hope.
Julian, you go against that Matt Patricia defense in practice every day. What makes them so tough to play against?
Yeah, they're just, they're very fast, very physical, and Coach Patricia does a great job, mixing things up and keeping you on your toes as a quarterback. And it's very hard to play against them. So it's great practice going against our offense, and makes my job in practice very hard.
Right over here to the right, Cameron T. Robinson.
Julian, obviously you were on this roster for the Tennessee game last year and kind of was in an atmosphere like this, but to be the starting quarterback, to play in the atmosphere, to feel it on the field, what was that like?
Yeah, a big thank you to our fans. I think they were awesome today. The atmosphere and the energy in the stadium was unlike anything I've ever seen before. So it was awesome. And, just having them behind us on third down when they were on offense, making it loud, making it tough on them. It was an awesome atmosphere.
All right, next two are going to go right here, Dylan Davis, and then to Bill Rabinowitz. Dylan, go ahead.
Just in general, running out on the field, seeing that environment, all those things for your first start, how did it stack up to what you thought you were going to see when you came here, decided to come to Columbus in the first place?
Yeah, I think it was everything it lived up to, having 100,000 in the shoe, having all those fans behind us, a great turnout from them. And they lived up to their hype, and they did a great job on third down, making it tough for the Texas offense.
I know Ryan Day said that he didn't want to put too much on your plate, be fairly conservative, not make mistakes, which obviously you did. There was the fourth down pass that he threw to Max. And I know Jeremiah was deep. He may have gotten an earful on the sideline. What was that like to kind of get that response, I guess, from him?
Yeah, Coach Day definitely coaches the quarterbacks hard, and that's the way we want it, because he brings the best out of us. We come off the field. What did he see? What did I see? And then we go from there.
Julian,
Yep, go ahead.
what was the conversation leading up to the pass to Carnell Tate, the touchdown pass? Was that a progressive thing? Was there talking beforehand about what was going to happen?
Yeah, before the drive, they kind of let me know, hey, this might be coming. But we had done a great job in practice that week of repping that play. And Carnell ran a great route, made a great catch, and offensive line protected me well up front.
Going to go right here to second row to Andy Anders.
Yeah, I think one of the impressive things about this performance was your ability to take checkdowns, not make mistakes with the football, play smarter out there in your first start, right? What enabled you to do that? What allowed you to calculate when to take a risk?
Yeah, I think Coach Day and Coach Fessler have kind of instilled that in our quarterback room that, if on third down, if the big play is not there, it's okay to check the ball down. and the battle of field position. So I think just the preparedness from Coach Day and Coach Fessler about, hey, we're not going to lose the game if it's third and extra long. Yeah, I'll be able to take the check down.
All right, we'll wrap up Julian with Tim May.
Yeah, Julian, your high school coach told me 3 or 4 months ago you would handle this moment. What did you tell yourself? I know you've already asked some of those questions, but what were you telling yourself all week or stuff about staying poised, staying within your game, and not doing anything stupid, really, because you really didn't today?
Yeah, just going out there and, playing one play at a time and just focusing on my job and execution of each play, and then just keep stacking plays.
All right. Julian, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right, guys, I believe that's it. Thank you. Yeah.
Julian Sayin, tremendous debut on the field and tremendous debut in the at the podium there. That was a very professional, just like he was in the game, cool, calm, collected, and again, huge moment for the second-year quarterback leading Ohio State to the win. Here's a quarterback battle comparison: Julian Sayin versus Arch Manning. Sayin obviously gets the W, and again, Arch having to kind of throw the ball a lot there in the fourth quarter, trying to come back from 2 scores down, I think skewed things. I thought Sayin was clearly the better quarterback today, and that is, I don't want to say surprising. Julian Sayin is a tremendous prospect. Was the number 1 quarterback in the country coming out of high school. I was very animate when he was in the portal that Ohio State needed to do that, despite already having Aaron Noland in that class. And so I'm not surprised that Julian Sayin played well. That shouldn't be a surprise. But I think just given that this was Sayin's first start, his first real meaningful action, and that Arch Manning did get is a year older, got his feet wet last year quite a bit with a couple of starts, got thrown into some big games at times. I think the expectation, especially if you're Texas, was that, if you're Texas, you're telling yourself at the beginning of the game, we're going to win the quarterback battle. We're going to be better than 2 quarterbacks today. That was not the case. So Julian Sayin did a tremendous job, not just protecting the ball and managing the game. He made some really good throws. Not all of them were caught. So this was a very, very encouraging season opener debut for Julian Sayin. Here's a look. We've pulled up a lot of the first starts here of the last several Ohio State quarterbacks. And, when you take into account the quality of the defense, the quality of the competition, the atmosphere, just the general pressure of the game, this is maybe the best on this list. If you really look at it, I mean, there's a few games where the other where the quarterbacks are maybe statistically superior to what Sayin did today, but then you look and it's a MAC school or it's a lesser opponent, and then you look at some of the other big games where Kyle McCord has to start against Notre Dame. He did enough against Notre Dame, but no touchdowns and a pick. So this is something that I think, again, as I said before the press conferences, I think if you came into this game like wondering about Julian Sayin, I think you're, despite no, he didn't throw for 300 yards today, but I think you have to be really optimistic about his prospects moving forward, and just a tremendous job. And yeah, this is the first quarterback to ever beat the number 1 team in the country in their first start. So huge congrats to Julian Sayin for that performance and for the way he handled things today. Ryan Day had some interesting things to say afterwards, kind of confirmed what we talked about. The conservative offensive game plan, didn't want to put it on Julian Sayin. Not fair to do that this early. And then the way the game played out allowed him to stick with that philosophy, as Ohio State never trailed in the game. So he was able to kind of stick with that conservative offensive game plan. So just listening to Ryan Day talk afterwards, it sounds like we're going to see a lot more diversity out of this offense moving forward. It was kind of, as he said during the week, just win the game and kind of put yourselves in situations where you're not giving Texas anything. And so they were able to do that today and escape. But I think, we'll see what, like I said before, we'll see what it looks like against Washington. The next 2 weeks, I think they'll be able to experiment. I think we'll see more diversity in the next 2 weeks. But,
in terms of like its effectiveness, I think Washington will be the next real measuring stick game, whereas the next two will be a nice environment for them to experiment, to open things up, to diversify a little bit, and get some of that extra work in. Put some things on film, maybe for some Big Ten opponents down the road that you weren't willing to put on film today. There's a lot of good things I think that can come out of a win like this, where you played so well, you did all the things you need to do to win, but yet you can still do so much more offensively. So I think we're going to try and hit some comments or questions from our listeners here as we bridge the gap. Tom, Tony, and crew are getting set up for the Buckeye Weekly postgame portion of our postgame show. So we'll turn it off to them here in a little bit, but they're obviously coming back from press conferences. Hummus Hero, they might need to give Bo Jackson a chance if Peoples continues to struggle. Donaldson played great, but they need two backs that can produce. Yeah, I think neither back was super productive today. I didn't think the offensive line was winning a lot up front in the run game. A little bit more maybe in the second half than the first. Donaldson, I thought, made the most of his carries. Peoples, I think maybe a little too much thinking out there. This is essentially his first, meaningful action. Donaldson's much more experienced than Peoples. This is his first kind of real action in this type of environment, these types of stakes. And so, was he pushing it? And of course, he's from Texas, so this was a huge thing for him. So was he forcing things? Was he pushing it a little bit too much, trying to make big plays instead of just kind of getting the pads down and taking 2 or 3? That's certainly something to watch. I'm very high on Bo Jackson, so I think we will be seeing him at some point this season for sure. That'll be something to watch offensively as we get beyond just the kind of the conservative play calling and things like that. Is Peoples maybe kind of finding that vision and maybe getting out of his own head a little bit now that the Texas game is behind them. What else we got? There we go. Troy V. Secondary was covering them like a blanket most of the day. Very impressed with their defense backfield. Again, elite play. Everybody. Jermaine Matthews interception. Caleb Downs always making that key tackle in the right place, the right time. Davis and Igbinosun had some big plays, some big pass breakups. Here's what I would have liked to talk about earlier. Here's what I want to talk about. Lorenzo Styles Jr. And not just his ability in coverage today, he was very physical. He had 2 or 3 really big hits, made some really sure tackles in the secondary. This is a guy, and I've known Zoe since he was a freshman in high school, so I've kind of watched the progression. This was a guy who I always felt was a better corner prospect than a receiver prospect. But he wanted to be a receiver coming out of high school, and he was never considered like super physical. So like it made a little bit more sense maybe to him, the way he operates, to play wide receiver. You're not going to be as physical. Yet now he's made this transition to defensive back, and he's made it very well. And you see this physicality come out of him that I actually didn't see out of him in high school. That is like a major. I don't think that's a small thing here. I think Lorenzo Styles Jr. becoming a physical guy, because you have to be physical to play nickel, because you're going to be put in a lot of situations where you're on a tight end or you're making tackles between the hashes, you're in run support. So that was a real revelation today, I thought, was Lorenzo Styles Jr.'s physical play. We know he's athletic and can cover, but the physical play I thought was huge. Wingman Ted, Paul Feinbaum will somehow blame the refs. Yeah, look, I don't have much room to talk. I picked Texas by a point, so I have to wear that. I picked Texas by 1 point. I thought it'd be a very close game. It was a close game. I mean, it was a very, very competitive game. But yeah, Paul Feinbaum. I did not go full Feinbaum. Okay, I did not go full Feinbaum. I did not call Arch Manning basically football Jesus. I did not call him some generational unstoppable force. I picked a low scoring game. So I can talk a little bit about that. Yeah, Feinbaum was. I think Feinbaum not only said that about Manning. I think he picked a blowout. I didn't think this would be competitive. So, yeah, Feinbaum Well, he's going to get his clicks off of that. He's going to get his views. I mean, what's going to happen now is people are going to tune in to Feinbaum's next program to kind of watch him eat his crow or say whatever he's going to say. So in theory, he kind of wins today, but it is what it is. As we look at some of the defensive stats here, God, Davidson Igbenogson, 10 tackles. I knew he was active today. That was really good. Jalen McClain, I should have mentioned him earlier too when we were talking about the secondary. Jalen McClain was very, very involved today. Got a lot of good reps today. Was in the game a lot of key snaps. Arvell Reese, we know, had a super game. Cade McDonald, we know, had a super game. But again, there's Lorenzo Styles. There's 7 tackles. Like, that was even more than I would have even thought. But like 3 or 4 of those 7 were like really physical plays, big hits. So tremendous job again by the defense. And again, the guys they needed to step up did so and more. So it is interesting that Lorenzo gets to see if there's a little sibling rivalry there. Lorenzo with more tackles than Sonny today. That's interesting. Any other comments or questions we can throw up as we kind of wait for Tony and Tom to get set up? Ryan Dawes, thank you for super chat. Pretty good defense, I'd say. Was Hartline's game plan surprisingly conservative, or was Sark's? Brian Hartline's game plan, was conservative. Okay, well, it was a conservative game plan, and of course, we do have to lump Ryan Day into that too. He's still Brian Hartline's offensive coordinator, calling plays. Ryan Day still is a very, very still has his hands very much in the offensive game plan and everything else. But yes, that was a conservative game plan from Ohio State. I was not surprised it was a conservative game plan. I kind of expected them to try and establish the run and throw a lot of bubbles. They didn't throw that many bubbles, but I expected that kind of to be the thing. And as long as the defense held up, they were able to kind of stick with that and do that. But yeah, I suspect we will see things opened up quite a bit more moving forward, especially as Julian Sayin shows you, hey, like, I was more than capable today, and quite frankly, like, I might have been more capable than you thought I would be, as Ryan Day almost admitted in postgame. So yeah, I think it'll be surprising if they kind of kept the training wheels on a lot moving forward. I think this was just a survive and advance type of game for them. But yeah, and Sark, yeah, a little bit with Sark, because Sark I thought could have been a little more aggressive, and he, when Ohio State forced him to get aggressive there in the fourth quarter, Texas had a little bit more success. Now, you can start talking about what if Ohio State did something different defensively. It didn't feel like they did much different defensively, but Sark started maybe going deeper into the playbook a little bit out of some desperation, being down 14-0, and maybe looking back, he'll think maybe I should have done that. Maybe I should have went deeper into the playbook earlier. But he sort of handled Arch the way Ohio State handled Julian, and Arch has been in there. This is Arch's 3rd year in the program. He's started games like. That was a little surprising to me. Vanilla Thunder, give Texas credit. Their defense is top-notch. We struggled but played composed. Completely agree. Texas's defense is top-notch. I think the best defense Ohio State will face this year. Maybe they'll play Texas again in the playoff. Who knows? But Ohio State did what they needed to do to win. I think it's perfectly acceptable to be excited about Ohio State's win, say they did the things they needed to do, play well, and also give Texas credit. That was a very well-played defensive game by both teams. SEC officials, they tried their hardest to give a Texas win. Hamas Hero. I can understand maybe a little bit of questions about there at the end, was Styles is incomplete and Texas is a catch. Should that not have been maybe the same call? I thought Styles was maybe, a little more clear that, obviously Texas did, as I put on X during the game, Texas strategy defensively was to kind of hold Jeremiah Smith when at all possible and just bank that they're not going to get called for holding on every play, which I think is actually probably a pretty good strategy for trying to shut down Jeremiah Smith. But look, I think there's a couple things you can nitpick. I didn't think it was horrible. Trust me, it was a suspicion of mine moving in. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did an SEC crew get this game? But, I don't know. I think there's always some things you can kind of nitpick. I didn't think it was egregious, like one side versus the other. Duke says, Sayin greater than Archie. He was today. There's no question he was today. Will he be over the next 12 to 15, 16 games? We'll see. Certainly Ohio State's hoping he will be. And if he is, that's going to be incredible news for Ohio State. But yeah, he he had the better game today. There's no question about that. What else we got? A. Meadows. Refs definitely didn't call that game objectively. Again, I can see some missed holds on Jeremiah Smith for sure. I can see maybe some questioning about, like, okay, Styles a catch or Styles no catch, Texas touchdown catch. But I didn't think it was egregiously called, like, in favor of one team or the other. I really didn't. Ton, I'm sorry if I say this wrong. Ton Dueck, much better defensive performance than Knowles' first big game, without question. And look, I'm not Knowles' defender. I've actually been fairly critical of Knowles at various points, but I think Patricia, what he's inheriting in terms of a experienced and talented defense, I think is a little bit better than what Knowles was kind of brought in to fix, kind of the mess that was left there. But yeah, I mean, this was an unbelievable defensive performance, and it's, Matt, if you didn't see the start of the show, Matt Patricia got my game ball. It's phenomenal. Tito's the name. I think Ohio State played super conservative for Sayin's first start. They'll open things up. Yep, I've said that already, just today, and I think you're dead right on that. I think this was like, let's not just. We're playing the best defense we're going to play all year, best front seven we're going to play all year. This is probably the least prepared Sayin's going to be all year as he gets more experience. Like, let's just not blow this and kind of rely on the defense. I completely agree. We're going to see them open things up. Larry Haynes, all right. Yes, sir. Matthew McConaughey in Columbus for this one. Did not have enough juice to get the guys going for this one, I guess. But I have to say, I said this last year after they beat Texas in the playoff. I hope everyone was nice to McConaughey today or this weekend, whatever, because he was very classy with the Ohio State marching band when they played back in January or end of December, whatever it was. And he was shaking hands with the marching band as they were coming through, kind of applauding them. So I hope, give him some friendly razzing, of course, but I hope everyone was mostly friendly to McConaughey. He showed a lot of class toward Ohio State the last time they played. Prime Cheese, same is fine. He did exactly what he was asked to do. It's his first start. He was very accurate. Couldn't have said it better myself. Again, first start, made no bad decisions, was not rattled. Beautiful. Ty Kroner, Jermaine Matthews was amazing. Yes, he was. Great game for Jermaine. Interception was textbook. Made some key tackles. Got the hand on the ball at Sonny Styles. Almost intercepted. So Jermaine, look, my instinct has been, we'll see how this plays out, but my instinct has been the secondary will be even better than last year because you're returning. I know you're losing Lathan Ransom and Denzel Burke, but in my mind, I think Jermaine Matthews is going to be a better player than Denzel Burke. And that's not taking away from Denzel. I just think that highly of Jermaine Matthews. I think he's going to be a better corner. You do lose Jordan Hancock too, of course. I think that was going to be a key for me. Styles played great today. I'm more pro Igbinosun maybe than most. I actually love the way he plays. And of course, another year of Caleb Downs being activated, and they really do love Jalen McClain. This is a guy they love. They've got some depth there with Malik Hartford as well. This secondary could be very, very good this year. So we'll see kind of how that grows. I mean, we're all talking about the offense opening things up and what that might look like in 4 to 6 weeks. Regardless of how awesome you thought the defense was today and how diverse they were and how much Patricia has put his fingerprints on this with some of the simulated pressures, with some of the different looks he's given, some of the odd fronts, the way he's deployed guys like Reese and Styles and Hicks. Regardless of all that, he didn't put it all out there today. He didn't show every card today. So we're going to see more out of the defense too. And I think that may be more exciting than the offense because we kind of know what Ryan Day's offense is going to look like. This is still Ryan Day's offense. It doesn't matter who the coordinator is. It's still Ryan Day's offense. I want to see, like, okay, that was game one. What's Penn State look like when he goes up against Knowles in that chess match? And we're going to be dissecting every call each of those guys make defensively that day. Like, what's he going to have in store for some of these games down the road that he didn't show us today? I think that's just as intriguing as the offense opening things up too. So that's going to be fascinating. But yeah, again, it's really hard to nitpick this performance. And a good point here, David Bryant, the terrible field position greatly affected play calling. That's also a good point. It's not like Ohio State was starting at their own 40 and then just running it up the middle 3 times behind their offensive line. Like they had some really tough field. They had some inside the 10 situations due to punts, due to the defense getting stops. They were inside the 20 a lot today to start drives, inside the 20 or 25 or worse a lot today to start drives. That 1000% is going to, between that and never trailing, those conditions are not conducive for like going above and beyond in terms of your aggressiveness versus what you would game plan for. So that's also a good point. And yes, they were the best way to put it, I think, today about the offense is they had a conservative game plan and were never given a reason to get out of it because they never trailed and they didn't have a lot of good field position situations. Market X, an average Jeremiah and you beat a consensus top 5 to 10 team, perfect way to start the season. Yeah, I mean, we may not see Jeremiah Smith drop 2 balls the rest of the season. In fact, he had a drop. He dropped his first pass last year, and I don't know if he had another drop the rest of the year, or maybe he did like late in the year. But it was like I think he only had 1 or fewer drops the entire rest of the season. So yeah, I mean, Jeremiah didn't have his best today. Max Clare didn't have his best today. Conservative game plan, and you beat one of the best defenses in the country. And again, I consensus top 5 to 10, I think may even be conservative. I mean, there might, on paper, there's only 2 or 3 teams I think that can stack up with Texas from a talent perspective, other than Ohio State. And so, yeah, this was a great win. Like if we can sit here and we can nitpick things, and we can talk, we'll certainly talk about things more throughout the show and throughout the week as we kind of dissect this. The first, probably Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. But if you're not excited or happy about this one, man, check your pulse and maybe find a new hobby. I mean, this was a really good performance. I don't know what more could have been expected out of this team coming out of the gates like this. This was phenomenal. Treebuck, thank you for the super chat. Julian, for a first-time starter, did perfect job of running all the time off at the end of the game, took the clock right down to 0. Excellent poise. This looked like a guy who was not a first-year starter, certainly not a guy making his first start. The poise of Julian Sayin today, the relaxing, the calming vibe he had, just handled himself like a pro. And just watching the post-game press conference, go back and watch, like when the show's over, it'll be up on the channel. Go back and watch his 10 or 12 minutes after. That is a guy who feels like he's done these post-game press conferences 25 times. I mean, he just came off very impressive today with everything he did. And that has to be incredible. It felt like watching Ryan Day. It felt like Ryan Day was like, oh man, this went even better for him than I thought it would. Wow, like he's ahead of where I thought he would be. This excites me moving forward once we open the playbook up. Even Ryan Day felt like, wow, this was really a mature, poised performance. Mozart's Ghost. Love to see we can still do short yardage or goal line stops with a brand new front four. But I know Caden was a big part of things last year. But the short yardage D-line thing, not a Jim Knowles specialty apparently. ACU Ninja Gal, defending champs. No lies told. That's a fact. Ohio State defending champs. Although don't let Ryan Day hear you say that because they're not defending anything. Robert Howard agrees. I don't see how you can have watched that game as an OSU fan and not be extremely happy. Yeah, it just I just think everyone would have taken that. If I told you before the game, like it's not going to be pretty on offense, it's going to be vanilla. But Julian Sayin is going to make 0 bad decisions, 0 turnovers, and the defense is going to be absolutely lights out and put Arch Manning in hell for 3 hours. I think everyone would have signed up for that. And I think everyone would have predicted an Ohio State win under those conditions. And so this was drawn up. This was about as well as you could draw it up, in my opinion. Like to me, there was not a path for either team to blow out the other team today, especially early in the season when everyone's kind of getting their footing. There was not a path to Ohio State winning this game by 3 touchdowns. There was not a path to Texas winning this game by 3 touchdowns, regardless of what Paul Feinbaum will tell you. This was a game that was going to have to be decided by a score, and which team was going to make the key plays, the clutch plays. And Ohio State made almost all of the clutch plays today. Of the 7 or 8 biggest plays of that game, Ohio State made, all but maybe one of them. All the big plays seemed to go Ohio State. All the big moments seemed to be dictated by Ohio State and go their way. Warpug, Carnell Tate showed why he's a great receiver. That was an unbelievable catch. DB was there a little early. I wasn't sure if he get a PI there. Ball was a little underthrown, obviously, although, people were kind of on, not you guys, but I think on the broadcast, the ball's underthrown. I'm like, well, what you don't do there is overthrow it, because he can't catch it if you overthrow it. And he's so wide open, you better not overthrow that. So, yeah, you got to be a little bit conservative with that throw. Carnell Tate, incredible hand-eye coordination. Great catch. Mateo and Fuego, $1.99 super chat. Thank you so much, sir. I'll just shout you out. Congratulations on a win for the Buckeyes, Mateo, and thank you for that. Market X. Oh, you're playing straight on my heartstrings now. Market X. IGB gets a lot of crap, but everyone was pumped they came back for another year. I was pumped he came back for another year. I'm an IGB guy. I'm sorry. Yes, there are. If he could cut down on the PIs, that would be nice. They don't bother me as much. They are more than outweighed. Those PIs get more than outweighed by the physical play, by the way he covers, the way he hits and run support, his juice. He is Downs is undoubtedly their leader in terms of mindset and just putting guys where they need to go. And the guy that everyone looks up to in that defense is Caleb Downs, but the energy guy is Igbenogson. And I just think that was a 6-star commitment. That was like getting a 6-star prospect, getting him to come back. He wouldn't have been a first-round pick, but someone would have picked him in the middle of that draft. He's a big physical corner. He absolutely would have been drafted somewhere in the middle of that draft. And so that was a huge one. Jordan B, shout out Corso, give me my first love. Yeah, we watched that obviously before the broadcast came on, or as the broadcast was coming on. And, he of course had to start by saying, Texas, no chance for Ohio State. There was no way that Corso was going to go out not picking Brutus. Even if in his mind he thought Texas was going to win, there was no way that he was going to go any other direction. So very well scripted end for him. I really, really wish him the best of health moving forward. Such a big part of my childhood. I don't so much do the pregame TV watching anymore like I used to, but I very much was part of my childhood all the way through college, my early 20s and mid 20s is religiously getting up every Saturday and watching College Game Day and seeing what antics we were going to see from Lee Corso, who he'd pick, and just kind of what he would say, and kind of how he would get the audience kind of going one way and then get them going the other with the hat or with the headgear. And so that's a part. Part of getting old. I'm 40 now, and guys I grew up watching are retiring, moving on, doing whatever, and so it's kind of a new wave that I'm getting used to. But yeah, it definitely was a cool way to end things. And as Ryan Dawes points out, Lee Corso made the right call, so he ends with a W. He got it right. He didn't just make the pick. Wasn't just the sentimental pick. He actually got the pick right. So, Mike Farino, thank you for the super chat. Predict the top 3 next week. Do OSU and Texas flip, or does Texas fall more? Yeah, I think Ohio State won. I think Clemson's going to beat LSU. That's just my opinion. You're free to disagree. So I'm going to base this on Clemson beating LSU, and I think Clemson's going to be 2. That's my instinct. And then 3 is kind of where the decision has to get made, right? Because you're looking at, Penn State playing Nevada versus, Texas losing by a touchdown on the road to Ohio State in a very competitive game. Notre Dame's playing at Miami. My instinct is that's going to be Ohio State 1, Clemson 2 if they beat LSU, and Penn State 3. That's my instinct. What would I have it? if I had, so that's my prediction for the purposes of what I was asked. If Clemson beats LSU and Notre Dame beats Miami, I would have Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame. And I would make Penn State 4, and I would make Penn State beat someone with a pulse or have someone in front of them like Ohio State or Notre Dame or Clemson lose before moving them up. That's a very weak non-league schedule. They'll get like, look, if they like smash Oregon at home in a few weeks, then by all means, I'm not opposed to them jumping back up somewhere. But that's how I would have it. So we will see. But we're getting close, guys. I know you're probably getting sick of me talking. We're getting close to Tom and Tony taking over. There's Tony.
Hey, Mark. We're working on my camera here. Tom's. I don't know where Tom is. I assume he's still somewhere in the stadium. We don't have to worry about him just yet. But boy, that was a pretty dominating defensive effort on the Ohio State side. And when I hear people say that Steve Sarkisian was going to put Matt Patricia in a blender, that's not how I viewed this game. That's not what I saw. And Ryan Day talking after the game about how if things were different, they needed to do some things, they had a bigger play sheet. So I'm wondering, Mark, was this a conservative defensive play calling day from Matt Patricia when in the first half I saw Ross Fulton tweet out that this is much beyond anything that Jim Knowles did at Ohio State?
Well, I mean, there we go. We got the right shot up now.
Oh my! It's the first game for us too. I those were things. I'm sure you were busy down at the presser, but those were a couple of things we talked about. Was first of all, Steve Sarkisian has been labeled rightly or wrongly as maybe the best play caller in college football, and Matt Patricia had him in hell today. And so that was obviously tremendous. Matt Patricia got my game ball. Unbelievable defensive game plan. Unbelievable on his calls today, everything. And so that was the one thing. But then the other thing we talked about was like, okay, everyone's like, okay, what happens to the Ohio State offense when they open things up? And, because Ryan Day certainly hinted that they will. And we knew that was a conservative game plan. And like, Texas never gave Ohio State a reason to get out of their conservative game plan. So, like, everyone's talking about the excitement of, like, the offense being unleashed. What about the defense? Because no matter what you thought about how much Matt Patricia showed today, there's no way he did not show all his cards today. So what's he holding up his sleeve for Washington or Penn State or whoever it might be later? I think that's almost as exciting as the offense being unleashed. Let's see how Matt Patricia builds off of this.
I was going to say that, when you look at the defensive effort, I mean, and I was reading our Ross Fulton tweeting some stuff out, some other experts just about, how they disguise so many things. I mean, it was really, really impressive. And, with the recency bias of, he's doing things that we were never seeing under Jim Knowles or whatever. I mean, we'll kind of get to that, but what happens when Ohio State goes against a more established quarterback, whether it be DeMond Williams at Washington, whether it be Drew Allar at Penn State or whoever, because let's not forget that Arch Manning still is young in terms of his development. I mean, yeah, he's been there a minute, but he's still young in terms of his development. They, only have 2 receivers, honestly, at this point. There are some shortcomings with that, but I think that there should be a ton of excitement with this defense.
Well, and Mark, let me ask you, and I'm sure you said it earlier, if you were to just watch these 2 quarterbacks, I can tell you which one I thought was the more experienced, the less nervous quarterback of the 2, because I was impressed all game long by Julian Sayin. I think he had one moment where there was a throw to Max Clare, and Max Clare was on the side like blocking, where I don't know what the miscommunication was, but there were 5 to 10 instances of Arch Manning throwing the ball at somebody's ankles, looking a little bit starry-eyed at the defense coming at him. I thought if he would have run the ball more and been more aggressive there, and that's Steve Sarkisian also in the first half, make him more of the running game. He finished with 10 carries, and a couple of those are, at least one of those is a sack. If he's running the ball 16, 17 times in this game, I think Texas might have come out of here with a win.
Yeah, it was interesting to me to see the way Texas came out. It seemed like they were protecting Arch, even more so maybe, or just as much so as Ohio State was protecting Julian Sayin, which I found a little surprising given that Arch has been there with the same coaching staff for now 3 years. Like that was interesting to me that Julian Sayin turned in what I thought was the better performance of the two. I think that was going to be, as I said earlier, like if you were Texas coming into this game, I think the one thing you would have maybe held your hat on was our quarterback's more prepared for this moment than theirs. In our court, we're going to have, it may not be a huge edge, but we're going to have an edge in the quarterback battle. And that did not play out that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was certainly a huge point. And I mentioned, I didn't see one time today where I thought, oh, that was a nerves moment from Julian Sayin. Oh, that was the atmosphere, the jitters got the better of him there. And I fully would have expected a few. I would have expected a few of those. And no one would have blamed him for a few of those. There were zero. In fact, his receivers kind of let him down there early in the game. And so
that was the point.
And like,
that he had the drops.
Yeah. And like the third down, like here's a perfect example. Like what I'm talking about. The third down throw out of the end zone to Carnell Tate, that was tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
There were like 6 things that could have happened there, and none of them were good except for throwing like even an incompletion there is bad because now you're punting from your own 3 or 4 yard line? 2, like even like everyone says there's nothing wrong with incompletion. An incompletion there is still bad. Like it's one of the few situations where an incompletion is bad. And so I just like that throw is huge. And like rolling out into the end zone, you're getting chased. Could be a safety, could be an interception, could be a fumble, there's a million things that could have happened wrong there. And he makes a beautiful throw to Carnell Tate, who, like a veteran receiver should, make sure he helps his quarterback out, gets the feet down. And Carnell was tremendous as well today and big when they needed him to be.
All right, then, you know what, Mark, we'll go ahead and let you go. That way,
thank you.
Kevin can sit here and be Tom.
I'm going to go watch Alabama beat the Drakes over Florida State.
But so we'll say goodbye. Thank you for handling the first hour and 20, and then we'll take the next 2 hours and 40 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. Well, we'll go however long we need to go. Thank you, Mark. And welcome everybody to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here right now with Kevin Noon. Kevin, how's it going?
I'm having a better time than Matthew McConaughey and Glenn Powell and some of the other dignitaries that were here at the game looking at the Texas side of things. You know, I'm really looking forward to going back and watching this game because you sometimes can't really appreciate a 14-7 game in the midst of it. But, you know, I think we saw a lot of growing up and, you know, being able to get through a lot of this here in week 1. Game 1 against number 1. I think all of that, you know, carries a lot of water.
And I will say Glenn Powell was taking pictures with everybody before the game. People would be walking up to him, and he was happy as heck to take pictures. I don't know that he was as happy after the game or during the game, but beforehand, he was very accommodating. And I see we've got a bunch of super chats that I'm not sure if we've already touched on.
Well, they're gonna get bonus. We'll just do it again.
Yeah, we'll let that one. We'll let them build a little bit, but. Kevin, when I'm watching Julian Sayin, Ryan Day said it, and I completely agree. We probably could have gave him more to do. Like could have put more on him. Didn't necessarily want to do that. Second half of the defense going the way it was. This seemed like a very safe approach, but I think Julian Sayin is capable of more than just being safe. I think he's capable of being dangerous.
Well, I mean, and we just talked about this with Mark a minute ago on the first half of the show. Early in the game, he kind of got, you know, picked together with a bunch of drops. And, you know, I think maybe you develop a little bit more confidence early in the game. If some of the Max Clare had a drop that was very, you know, un-Max Clare-like, I mean, he would have never done that at Purdue. and I already see the hook coming in. Tom is going to sit in his rightful chair here in a second, so I better get all my thoughts in quickly. But look for me. Look for me on the morning show. I'm sure I'll be doing that as well. But yeah, I think that you don't want to sit there and have Julian Sayin doing too much at this point. You play to win the game. You know, heard an NFL guy say that at some point. You play to win the game, so do what you need to do. What happens if it ends up, being 14-14 and then it gets into game-winning time? But, fortunately for Ohio State, we didn't get there.
Yeah, and it would have been very interesting to see what Julian Sayin does with 2 minutes on the clock or a minute 30 on the clock with, 75 yards to go. Because it's not gone well for the Buckeyes when they've been in that situation over the years. But 13 of 20 for 126 yards and a touchdown. Very pedestrian, but that's what Ryan Day wanted. Just basically don't go out there, lose the game. Don't have expectations on I'm going to throw for 300 yards. Just go out and take the plays that are there, and that's what he did. I was wondering, is he being too conservative? And then as I'm thinking that, they throw deep to Carnell Tate, and it's like, okay, I'll be quiet now. And Carnell Tate did a good job of catching that one twice as he was being interfered with. And there were some interference calls that didn't go Ohio State's way, but in terms of the drops, there were at least three or four drops. Max Clare had one, Jeremiah had 2 or 3. And you add those to the 13 of 20, and he would have been 16 of 20 for 160 yards or whatever. And now you're talking a pretty good debut. Which this may have been the best 126 yards passing I've seen from an Ohio State quarterback in a while.
I'll end on this thought, then I'll tag Tom in. How many times do you beat the number 1 team in the nation with 203 total yards?
Not very often. I'm going to say that I think that's scientifically, that's a fact, not very often. I will say, and either Thomas here now as well, either of you can answer this question, or you can't. I'm going to throw it out to you. Do you know the last time that Ohio State had exactly 203 yards of total offense in a game?
Did they win?
They did not.
Was it against Clemson?
31-0?
No, they had like 211 in that one. The Cotton Bowl against Missouri, fellas.
Oh, boy.
203 yards of total offense, and that did not look like a team that this 203 yards of offense much better than that one. So, Kevin, thank you very much for stepping in.
Absolutely. I'm going to try and not walk weirdly off the shot, but I spilled my water all over my lap, so I look like I went to the bathroom.
We now welcome in Tom and say, Kevin, go get you a dude wipe. And
do we have a new sponsor that I'm not aware of? No? Okay.
So, Tom, first, welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast.
Thank you.
I'm still Tony Gerdeman, here now with Tom or Tom. I've already given 1 power pause. I don't know if I should give 2, but I'm gonna, because it's a special day. You just knock off the number 1 team in the nation. You become the number 1 team in the nation, barring something unforeseen.
Penn State, I think, is up 6-0 on Nevada, so it's probably a little soon to say.
How's it going?
Tony, it's good. This was a delightful day for college football on the whole. Like, it was just the whole day from beginning to end. Oh, they're up. I don't know what you're playing.
Florida State up 14-7 on Alabama.
Ooh, well, I guess this is still preseason, so it doesn't count. Just from beginning to end, just a delightful day of college football. Yep. From the weather to the Lee Corso thing, and he does his pick, he gets his flowers, everyone cheers for him, he gets the pick right, and you end up with a really good, close, competitive game. There was a moment where it looked like, oh, this is over earlier than expected, and then the interception gets overturned, and you got a close to 60-minute football game, and I think everyone can kind of walk out of here going, there's stuff to improve. This team's going to be a lot better in 2-3 months. These 2 teams will probably see each other later in the year again. But I don't think either team, talking to the Texas folks, I don't think they're walking out of here feeling bad about stuff. And I would certainly assume that Ohio State is feeling pretty good and also feeling like, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff to work on, but now you got 3 weeks to work on it before you have another challenging game.
Our buddy Pat Murphy and I were standing in the end zone. He asked, do you think if Texas scores here to make it 14-13, they're going for 2? I'm like, oh, absolutely, they're going for 2. Because Steve Sarkisian understands that this kind of loss doesn't hurt you.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't kill you. So he definitely would have, I think, gone for 2. I don't know. Did he even?
No.
Yeah. It's not something like, Coach, say you would have scored there.
Coaches don't generally want to get into hypotheticals.
No. So you did come over there. Did they bring out some players as well?
They did. It was Sark, and then they brought out, I think 6 players, 7 players.
Seemed like you were over there for a while.
Yeah, I was over there for a while. We have all the video of all of those interviews up on our YouTube channel. The Sark interviews up there already. I think the players should be up in just a few minutes if you want to watch those after you're done with here. But lots of good, interesting stuff to say, and we've got some interesting a couple sound bites from Sark that we'll let you hear a little later on. But I'm sure we have other stuff we want to get to before we get to that.
Yeah. Boy, we got a bunch of super chats in here.
Well, we should probably get to some of
let's
those.
Let's get to the people and see what they have to say. Okay. Ryan Dawes gifted 20 memberships to Buckeye Huddle. Thank you for that. Tom, that automatically gets dispersed.
Yes, I was delighted to hear that earlier, that we were not responsible for doing that in the middle of the show.
You can't ask me to do stuff. Whatever you do, don't ask me to do stuff. Ryan Dawes, $25 super chat. Thank you for that. Pretty good defense, I'd say. Was Heartline's game plan surprisingly conservative, or was Sark's? I think, and I said it a little bit with Kevin, if they would have run Arch more in the first half, things would have gone better for the Texas offense. The Brian Hartline conservative approach was also approved by Ryan Day because of the Ohio State defense. He talked about it like if things would have been different with the defense, they could have dialed it up more. Looking back on it, they could have asked Julian Sayin to do more, but it's not something they wanted. They didn't want to put too much on him, but you haven't given your thoughts on Julian Sayin yet. Everything I saw today, he would have been able to handle it because he looked just fine.
He looked just fine. I thought the offensive line did a nice job giving him time for the most part. And the Texas guys talked about the fact that they did use some max protect to make sure he had time. Yes, I thought the game plan was very smart because I didn't get a chance to hear the Ryan Day thing. Was Ryan Day basically saying they felt like they could lean on their defense and they weren't going to have to?
Right.
Yeah,
like, especially in that second half where you see how things are going, and it's like, let's just not screw this up for the defense and put them in a bad spot with the offense. And he looked 1 tackle for loss for Texas, no sacks.
Well, and one tackle for loss for Ohio State. One tackle, it was just the Arvell Reese sack on Arch Manning, and that was it. I mean, there was not a lot of penetration really, either defensive line, which I guess I'm not shocked at. I mean, the Texas offensive line was a little more of a concern than the Ohio State offensive line, but there was plenty of talk that the Ohio State offensive line was going to have issues, and they didn't really, it seemed. It just felt like there was a lot of kind of boxers circling each other and sort of feeling each other out for a while and seeing, okay, just kind of taking a swing every once in a while. But it really, I turned to our buddy Garrick Hodge in the third quarter, and I said to him, you can just feel it in the air that one of these quarterbacks is going to make the mistake that is going to, and that they're going to lose that game. And it was 7-0 at that point, and literally 2 plays later, Arch Manning threw that interception to Jermaine Matthews.
Yeah, and he had a rough day, and I saw your tweet about, hey, calm down, like this.
Yeah,
with the broad sweeping one way or the other. I do think this validates me. I was the only person saying like people are crazy for saying Arch Manning is the top player in the nation or whatever when they're already putting him on the best of list. It's like, let him do something. Now you can't judge him based off of this. He's got an entire body of work to go, but he was rushing through some things. He's making some inaccurate throws, but he said himself recently, like, I can't wait till I throw my first interception or whatever, and people can just kind of back off and let me be. And well, here you go.
Your wish.
Super chat from Wingman Ted. Do coaches have to earn their logos on their outfits like players have to lose their black stripes? Who dressed Matt Patricia? I don't know if you saw it in here. His iron-on Ohio State logo was like coming off of his shirt. But sometimes that happens when the opponent is holding. So I don't know if this was Sark in there, holding per usual. But yes, he was. You need to get back in there and get some glue on that or something like that, some fabric glue. I don't know if this is a Nike issue, but I can promise you, if they had just switched to Under Armour or Adidas, they'd be going through hell right now.
Yeah, we have a question about coaches dressing, so I'm just going to put this picture up right here.
Thank you, Maddie and Fuego, for that super chat. For all the super chats so far.
That's Sark on the sideline.
Mm-hmm. Which one?
In the front there. In the front, that's him, I believe. And with the you can see the exposed ankles. His shoes are wet, but his cuffs are bone dry. Everything's coming up Sarkisian house. I looked at that and I thought, well, whatever people are going to say about however, whatever other coaches are dressed, that was certainly not the most, that I think there was the most fashion choice of anyone that on the sideline there. Drew Buck says, Julian, for first-time starter, did a perfect job of running all the time off at the end of the game, took the clock right down to 0, excellent poise. He's not ready to be late 2022 CJ Stroud, and that's fine. This is his first career start. He played what I sure think seems like a pretty good Texas defense, and he did just fine. They did what they needed to win. It was not a thing of beauty by any means, but he did what they needed to win. The 0-18 of first-time starters playing the number one team in the nation.
That's right.
So that's now 1-18. So I guess to me, that's both. I think Sark and Ryan Day talked about what's the barometer, and the barometer is win the game. Guess what? He won the game. So that felt like they were really managing things to keep him from having to do too much, and he did what they needed him to do. But he made that throw to Carnell Tate, and that was a play that they need. Well,
both of them.
Yeah, both of them. But I mean, the one in the end zone, I can pull that one up.
The one from
too.
the end zone and the one into the end zone.
The one into the end zone. That one, I can find that one real quick too. That was here's him winding up and flinging that one down. That is Carnell Tate down there somewhere. And had my first Tony real good ref just running directly in front of me right as a perfectly in focus guy is catching the football. So you have a frame or two later here that I would have liked, but there's Carnell Tate catching that ball. There's the back judge screwing things up as usual. SEC refs, am I right? But that was you saw Arch Manning heave one downfield a couple times and never connected. He was off. There were some crossing routes where it's there's one to Ryan Wingo where it was just kind of behind him. He just was a little off. And Julian Sayin was not amazing. That's not going to be his entire Heisman reel is from that game or anything. But he made the big play that he needed to make, and as to your point, made some other big plays too.
Yeah, and he took the check downs, never got greedy, stayed patient, and I think that's pretty good. Like his command overall, staying patient, not reaching for too much, not being like, I just really want to throw this downfield. So now it becomes, I want to see, is he Drew Aller in that regard, which is not good. I don't think that's the case. You've got these guys, you got these receivers. You're not going to go full Drew Aller. But in a game like this, conservative, it worked. And that was part of the game plan, especially when the defense is playing it as well as it was for Ohio State. And also go ahead and give the Texas defense credit as well. And man, this is a hard fought one. And you knew that Ohio State would be punting at the end when they trying to run for a first down against that Texas defense. At that point, with like 3 minutes left, I told Pat, I told somebody, maybe it doesn't matter. Like, they don't have to just run it here because time is not really an issue because Texas has timeout.
Right.
They've got the 2-minute drill. You don't have to try to burn the clock here. You need first downs, and they weren't able to do that. Things bogged down a little bit, but defense stepped up.
Yep. Mike Farino says, predict the top 3 next week to OSU and Texas just flip. Does Texas fall more? They shouldn't, IMO.
Texas has to fall.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State's going to be 1 because you're going to have a better win than Penn State, whatever Penn State ends up doing against Nevada. So Ohio State's going to be number 1 by default. Texas, to me, I look at Texas and going on the road and having the ball with a chance to tie against the new number 1 team in the country in the final minutes. I look at that. That's honestly as impressive or more impressive than whatever you do to Nevada. So I tend to be a pure resume ranker, and a loss like this is, play someone Penn State.
Yeah.
Like I the way Penn State has their non-conference schedule this year, I have no interest in even talking about them until they get to conference.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the winner of the Clemson LSU game is going to have something to say about that.
Yeah, but Texas shouldn't fall out of the top 5 or whatever. I mean, we'll see what happens with Notre Dame, and Miami and Clemson, LSU, and a bunch of other games. But
Florida State right now 17-7 over number 8 Alabama in the second quarter.
Woof.
You say woof, I say
well.
Woof.
So, and I think we can have a little bit of a conversation on the bigger picture implications of this game, because I have seen people saying, and I don't necessarily disagree, Ohio State they're not in the college football playoff, but you have a win like this, you still have the margin of error of losing a couple games, because you can now sort of point to this and go, I mean, you're not leaving us out with this win and 2 losses. So now you can lose 2 games the rest of the way. You've got like 4-ish losable games, and that's, ish.
Well, I saw some Wisconsin.
Right.
Boy.
If Wisconsin is the 5th most losable game, 4th, I mean, you've got Washington, Illinois, Penn State, Michigan, and then Wisconsin. So, yeah, Ohio State's in pretty good shape right now, and Texas isn't in bad shape right now. I don't think this really materially hurts Texas's chance of making the playoff. They're probably still one of the top teams in terms of being a 3-loss team that could get in if you don't have another teams that have good wins. But I am going to need the SEC fix, folks. Just go sit quietly in the corner for a while, and we don't need to hear from you. I think hypothetical matchup season where you were undefeated is over. Now you're back to regular matchup season.
Oh, no.
And Ohio State has won 3 games in a row against the SEC since last December. I think it's time to go. It is what, Tony, we from New Jersey, that's go and get your shine box time. Go get your shine box, SEC. We'll talk to you later. I mean, we'll see what happens with Michigan and Oklahoma, and we'll see what happens with. But I mean, Texas is going to blow out Ohio State. August is over. Actual football is happening. So now you don't get to talk anymore, because the grown-ups who win football games are talking. You go sit in the corner now. Thank you.
Right. As they say in New Jersey, you call this gabagool?
That is what they say.
Ryan Day did say, talking about Texas, when we play them again, I don't think it's going to look the same way.
And Sark, one of the sound bites I have from Sark, he ends up talking about the fact that he wouldn't be surprised to see these. At this point, you almost assume these teams are going to play again, because these are unquestionably, to me, I say unquestionably, and we're through the noon games on the first Saturday of week 1, but I didn't see anything in that game that made me think, oh boy, these 2 teams, by the time we get to December, these are going to be 17th and 21st teams in the nation. Those look like 2 good teams playing a week 1 game, and they're going to look a lot different if and when they meet again later in the season.
Super chat from Michael Wayne Scott, Sayin looked in command and ready to be unleashed. I think that's going to be something the coaches leave here with. Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, Billy Fessler. The preparation they went through worked, and Ryan Day said that everything that Julian was telling him, seeing and saying on the sideline was correct. So, like, when you're getting that kind of communication back from your quarterback, gives you a ton of confidence that they can handle more. And doesn't need to be next week. I assume they're going to be throwing the ball around a little bit next week.
Yeah.
But I also think you need to get James Peoples going and get that running game going. But again, this game counts as much in terms of what to expect the rest of the season, almost like Grambling does, because neither one of these are a standard defense as to what you would expect from the offense week to week. So things are going to look much different next week. That doesn't mean the running game is solved or everything is perfect. And it also doesn't mean that Ohio State can't run the ball, because they average 2.3 yards per carry in this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's it's remarkable. If I told you, they're going to throw for 126 yards, Jeremiah Smith is going to only catch 60% of his targets. He's going to average 7.2 yards per catch. They're going to run for 2.3 yards per carry with a long of 8. Your odds that they win that football game?
Not great, because we also talked about with Ohio State, isn't 4.5 yards a carry that's probably a winning number,
and that's what Texas had. Yeah,
exactly. And they ran the ball well. And one of the concerns that I had when we talked about it in the pregame live show was, what does this defensive line look like in the fourth quarter? Because they were getting softer, and part of that is Kenyatta Jackson was out. That doesn't look like it's a long-term thing. I think he's got his bell rung. But you saw them getting a little bit softer, and CJ Baxter is just a beast. He's a 230-pound beast, and he did well. how about at the end there, CJ Hicks getting that pass rush and causing the C Grant and causing the throw, and then Caleb Downs there to bring the tight end down a yard short, because I'm way down at the other end watching this, and it's like, oh, it's complete. And then everybody starts celebrating. I'm like, I guess he's short.
Right. That was. I'll see if I can throw together. I don't know if I have my stuff yet.
Mateo and Fuego with another super chat.
Okay,
Thank you for that. If you got any questions, go ahead and throw them in, and we'll definitely take them. Mike Ferguson, breaking news: Greg Sankey is now proposing that all possessions within the 10-yard line count as touchdowns to maintain SEC dominance. Look, you go into Columbus and you lose 14-7. That's what we call an SEC win. Not even the transitive property. It's like the exchange rate is a win for the SEC. I think everybody knows that. I don't remember who suggested it, but somebody said Matt Patricia should just let Grambling go down the field with their first possession next week and just totally flummox Steve Sarkisian. Like, am I a bad coach?
Do Rodney let them score for defense from the end of a game? Like, nope, good. Whoop, oh, I fell down. How about that?
So just put Texas in their feelings that way.
Yeah, that would be strong agree on that one. Just going through. Well, here, let's head another super chat.
Yeah, Mateo and Fuego, big boy game. That absolutely was. I'm trying to. There was like a heavyweight fight, but I also don't think it's like, the heavyweight fights where they're just hugging each other and it just goes. And
you had a little
boring.
of that in the first quarter.
So you're feeling each other out, but this is also two really good defenses going at it. I do wonder what the next fight will be like. If it's like, oh, we need to swing offensively as well rather than just defensively. And then it turns into like a lightweight fight where they're just smashing each other, but it can't last that long. And eventually somebody gets knocked out by the second quarter.
Yeah, that was a game where what the first game looked like may not be at all what the next game looks like. I mean, you go back to the Oregon-Ohio State games last year, and that was week 5, something like that last year. So you had the teams a little more established, and you still had an entirely different game the second time. And I'm not saying Texas is going to be up 34-0 on Ohio State in the playoff, but I think you're probably going to – the next time I would expect a higher scoring game. I would expect maybe the 24-20 game I thought we would get this time. I don't know. Maybe we correct we adjust. Grade the game on a curve and give them a few extra touchdowns. I'm looking for the photo of the celebration from Caleb Downs. I'll have to find that later.
Ohio State with 3.4 yards per carry in the Cotton Bowl last year, down to 2.3 this year. Texas did a good job against the run.
Yeah. So let's get back to here. Wingman Ted gifted 10 memberships. Thank you. Appreciate that. Jordan says, what's the super chat got to be for Tom to do a Paul Feinbaum impression for the rest of the show? Any favorite picks from the day? I'll get some favorite picks up there. No, that's Kevin.
That's an impression of you.
Kevin says he has to eat 2 jars of pickles for me to do it. That you just said that was.
We will do Kevin
quote 2 jars of pickles. That's what he said. So.
We'll do Kevin impressions for free. You don't need to super chat that. We'll just do those.
But not eating pickles. No, not those kinds of impressions. Peanut Gallery chiming in here. Mike Frito says, I owe CJ Hicks a million apologies. Didn't think he was going to be a player here. I think he's just someone who has a role that he was going to be good at. And now he's in that role. And now he can potentially excel. And that doesn't mean he's going to be, the next Nick Bosa or anything. But you can be the next Chase Young. You could just be a really good situational edge rusher. You have to feel good for him. He's been here forever. He's in his final year. He's always been one of the nicest people on the team. Going back to being, when he was in high school, he was, Mark Giffler called him Captain Buckeye because he was just so personable, so friendly, really nice kid. Really nice to see him get a chance to do the stuff that I think people were sort of assuming 4 years ago, like, oh, he'll be doing this by October. It's like, well, everyone's path is a little different.
I want to go back and watch and see the rest of his play. I always get frustrated by the quarterback hurry stats. because there are none for Ohio State. There are no
Yeah.
quarterback hurries. And I promise you there were. And Texas had 2. But CJ Hicks definitely had a quarterback hurry on that last one because he had his hands on Arch Manning, was pulling him down. I'm going to go back and watch the rest of his snaps and see how he did, because he stepped in. Kenyatta Jackson was out, and he stepped in. I don't recall seeing Logan George at all. I did. What did you think about first quarter? We saw Devin Sanchez and Nate Roberts, freshman tight end at fullback, on 4th and goal from the 1. You take out Jeremiah Smith. You're like, no. Put 83, the true freshman tight end in.
Again, like, good for those guys. They're both people that we sort of were expecting big things from. I was not expecting big things. I wasn't expecting any things from them this week. That was, true freshmen. Sure, you can feel as good as you want about them. Are you throwing them in game 1? How really sure are you know what you're going to get from them game 1 against the number 1 team in the country? This is one of these things where, the coaches can happy talk you and tell you that they can talk your ear off about how great, at least show me. Well, that is showing me what you think. And that is speaking loudly.
And Devin Sanchez was in there in the 4th quarter on that last drive as well. He was as a third corner. And Keenan Bailey again plays another 5 tight ends and just keeps it churning. It's crazy. Patrick Logan with a super chat. What's with Manning's sidearm? We have not watched much of him. I have not watched much of him, but I thought like he just winds up and 1,000 miles an hour as hard as he can. And it's like, this is unnecessary. Like I would expect better timing, and it's almost like he's trying to catch up because he didn't see things as quickly as he had. He thinks the window is closing maybe more than it is, and maybe this is also being coached in preparation for this week. The windows will not stay open very long, so you need to get it in there. But I don't know where his footwork was, but again, he was low on some throws, he was behind on some throws, and a lot of these he's just like sidearm whipping it, and just. He didn't give himself enough of a chance throughout most of this game.
Well, this is 2 Texas quarterbacks in a row who were 5-star number 1 player in the class, who are coached by Sark, who's a QB guru, and they both throw like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. I don't understand. Why is the ball coming out down here? I coached softball for 8 years. Kids in 1st grade, you're teaching them where to throw. Where's the ball? That is not where the ball is. I know that when Quinn Ewers was a high school recruit, I talked to people about that, and I said, "What is with his throwing motion?" And I was constantly told, "It's the feet. Watch the feet. Don't worry about the arm.
The ball
you
gets
throw
where it
off
needs to
platform,
go."
and it's like, that's fine, whatever. If that's what it is, it looks weird. If it gets where it needs to go, fine, that's fine. But this is 2 in a row for Texas that it's like it looks weird for a quarterback that highly touted, who's obviously he has NFL Hall of Famers in his family group text. That's bizarre to me. One of the things that was we have we have a little bit of sound from Steve Sarkisian that I wanted to play here. It's going to be the one where it's Sark talking about what Ohio State did in terms of the defensive game plan that sort of, I'm going to find the actual name of the file. Sark on the Ohio State defense is the soundbite that we're going to pull here. It's just talking a little bit about what Matt Patricia did to sort of confuse them and sort of throw them off a little bit to that and then how they sort of had to adjust to that a little bit. It's coming. I promise. Hang on.
Maybe this is why Arch has to rush.
Time management. It's all right. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. You tell me when that's ready, and we'll get there. But it's he talked about the fact that coming in with it being Matt Patricia, they didn't know quite what to expect because you had a new defensive coordinator. You had just played this team, but how different was it going to be? All right, so now we got that ready to go. Here we go.
Yeah, I think that they have a very good secondary, and I thought their ability to disguise coverages in the first half was at an elite level. I wouldn't say a good level, an elite level, and I think that starts with they got Caleb Downs. He's very savvy, he's very smart. They're able to hold coverages, and whether it was a two deep shell, rolling to one high, playing two deep, the variations of cover two they played against us, they minimized the explosive plays. They stayed on top, and really that's what we did. We have a Michael Taft, Jelani McDonald. Those guys are savvy players, and we were able to do kind of both things there. I thought Manny Muhammad had a very good game for us. It's unfortunate, the one kind of shot they took on us, they made Carnell Tate makes a heck of a catch for a touchdown, but I thought both secondaries are good, both fronts are good. These are two good teams, I wouldn't be surprised if we see them again, December, January down the road.
All right. So that was, I think, partly correct, partly not correct. So sorry. Anyway, so Denver Dunbar says, hats off the Bucks. Hell of a defense. Good game. Hashtag hook 'em. Yeah, I think this is a game where both teams are walking out of here feeling pretty okay about stuff. These are teams that I think are both, you come out, you'd prefer, we hear this every year, it seems like. Week one, everyone improves the most from week one to week two. You've got lots to teach off of from week one, but you're happy to have the win and then be able to teach off of a win. I don't think this is a loss that's going to really materially hurt Texas that much. So this is a game where I think both teams are walking out of here going, yeah, that was a good football game, and we'll probably see you later in the season.
Yeah, good job, guys.
Yeah. Mike Ferguson says Sark's wife still dresses him just like he's 5 years old.
I mean, okay, that's not me saying that. That's Tom reading it.
Robert Howard says, because my work schedule doesn't allow me to join many lives. Thanks, guys, for your hard work. I encourage everyone to consider becoming a member at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We would encourage that as well. Yeah. The game thread, I'm sure, was jumping today. I had not looked at it since halftime or so, and I came back, and then it was like twice as long as it was all week long. It was like, oh boy, it got lively in the second half.
Yeah, every time I'd try to check in, there'd be like 5 new pages. I'm like, well, let's see, what's the mood right now?
Right. Well,
but I don't think there was a lot to get angry about. There's maybe some things to get frustrated about, but overall, there was enough to keep people happy. And a defense like that will travel, will keep fans happy. You can be frustrated with the offense, but it's like, at least we got the defense, that defense will right now, it looks like it'll carry them a little ways. And I don't expect the offense to continue to average 203 yards per game, but I do want to see the running game get better.
Yeah, this is one of those weeks when I'm really interested to talk to Ross Fulton and get his thoughts on schematically what was going on. I say this every game. It feels like I'm down on the field. I have a terrible view of everything. I feel like I've got to go home and watch the game to have really seen the game. I have a broad strokes understanding of what's happened, but that's kind of it at this point. But it does feel like this is a team where the top line numbers were not very good, but there's very logical reasons for that. And they never got pushed into having to do a lot. They were able to sort of sit back and be a little more conservative and not have to really there was basically the whole day felt like just don't make the big mistake and you'll probably win the football game. And that felt like kind of what the game plan was for the most part. They took the shot downfield when they needed to take the shot downfield. They hit some really crucial plays that were not huge plays yardage wise, but were big plays in terms of, hey, move the sticks, maintain possession. You talked on the field about the use of timeouts and how smart they were with how they used their timeouts today.
Yeah, every time. And none of these were the clock is running out or whatever. It's like every time they saw something they didn't like offensively or defensively, they stopped it and they got a timeout and they used them perfectly and then readjusted and came back with something that they felt would be better. And so they never got stuck out there with something that they didn't want or and something that they saw that they didn't like. They were on it. And the good thing is for them is since they didn't have to waste any of the timeouts on trying to stop a delay of game or for whatever reason, like they had their timeouts to use and they used them perfectly.
I'm just looking at Ohio State's drive chart, and I'm just going to read the yardage for Ohio State's drives. 9, 17, 80, 21, kneel down before halftime, 6, 7, 68, 11, 5, and then the drive, the kneel downs at the end. 2 drives longer than 21 yards all day. 80 yards, 68 yards. Tony, do you know when the first one happened? What happened right in the middle of that drive?
What?
The song Ohio by Camp was
Yeah,
played between the
see?
first and second period, first and second quarter. You know what happened in the middle of the 68-yard drive? They
What?
didn't play Hang On Sloopy between the third and fourth quarter. Tony, has the lack of Camp and the presence of Hang On Sloopy been the only thing holding this Ohio State football program back for years? People are asking these questions.
I think you're right to question those, and they did play Hang On Sleepy later on, but
They did.
Can
Did they score a touchdown after that?
I think
No, they did not.
See, I think it's okay to commend everything that was put in place and the crowd, and it was fantastic today, very loud. And when you're in South stands, and again, now the band is now in the North stands, but when you're in South stands now and you're getting blasted by the band because of the speakers behind you, that changes the game. And it was loud in there. Some of it was manufactured in terms of the band and then the amplification, but the crowd was in it throughout. They were in their seats. Ryan Day said they were in their seats early on. I thought then the Buckeye leaves for all of the timeouts or the penalties that the crowd caused, that worked well. I thought everything. I did not see, or I did not recognize, or I did not notice people waving the towels. I don't know if that was a thing.
It's because everyone was wearing red,
so it's hard to see
and then
anyway.
the towels were red. So,
but I thought everything else was done pretty well. And while there were people talking in the press box, once Ohio by Camp came on, I'm like, hey, shh, it's the stadium anthem. Respect it.
It's the state's national anthem. Yeah, no, I thought it was interesting that the stuff that people were really exercised about beforehand was the stuff that they started playing the song and it was like, oh, it's the song. And it didn't have a big reaction. It didn't have a bad reaction. It was just kind of like, I think 80% of the people in the stadium are like, they're playing a song during a commercial break like they do so many times. So I don't feel like there was any reaction at all to that.
It almost just looked like a commercial for Ohio.
Yeah, it was like an Ohio tourism commercial almost. Yeah, but I was going to make the same point you did, which is the amplification for the band of all the stuff, the laundry list of stuff they talked about. That got like the least coverage. That was the single biggest thing because I'm up in the north stand. I'm in the north end of the stadium, and I had the band coming from my left, and I had the band coming from my right. I had the band coming from behind me, and then in south stands it was the same thing. And it was like you want the college atmosphere. That was the single biggest differentiation point to me in terms of just the college atmosphere around the stadium. You can hear the band. The band is everywhere, and you hear them clearly, and it's not on a delay that you're playing Hang On Sloopy, and then the people in south stands are a second and a half ahead of the people in north stands because of the way sound travel. Like that was the single biggest change to me. I thought that was really cool. And next week is kind of the band game where you've got Grambling coming in. That should be really fun, and hopefully they have the Grambling bands mic'd up as well. I don't know that I heard the Texas band other than when I was up in the
right. Yeah, exactly. And it's it was impressive, and it was noticeable. It's like, gosh, is the band playing? Are they just playing louder? Like, no, they're playing a lot as well. Super chat from Mike Ferguson: $40 million roster, 0-1. I would say they needed to spend some more money on some receivers to help out Archman. But if the throws are going to be at the ankles, maybe not. But again, this is going to be a different team. And even Ryan Day said, the Ohio State team will be much different middle of the season, let alone end of the season.
Yeah, I keep saying Halloween. Like this Ohio State team, when Penn State comes to town for November 1st or whatever that is, it's generally right around Halloween weekend. It's going to be a very different looking Ohio State team. It'll probably be a decently different looking Penn State team. Week one, everyone is like in this huge rush to make these final definitive judgments. And it's like, there's so much football left to come. And these teams, both coaching staffs, I think, are still today, we're just kind of trying to figure out like, okay, what do we really have? We think we know what they have. What do we really have? And how are they really going to do in these situations? Because you don't, Matt Patricia talked about this over and over again during preseason. You don't have preseason games. So you really don't know, which, I mean, my sense from watching Ryan Day and watching Matt Patricia during the game. By the way, Matt Patricia on the sidelines. How was that? He was. Yeah, he was on the sidelines. I was shocked at that. But I think those guys were both walking off the field feeling pretty good about, job's not done by any means, but you've kind of crossed your first bridge, and it was a pretty big one.
Yeah, he was obviously had a smile on his face in here afterwards.
Oh yeah.
But again, this was you're only dialing it up so much in this game, and you've got two conservative approaches offensively. So how much do you really need to do defensively? But watching Caleb Downs run all over the place, watching Arvell Reese line up. Sometimes I'm a middle linebacker. Sometimes I'm a defensive end. Sometimes I'm whatever I want to be. Sometimes I'm
a bad mama jamma.
Right, and tracking down Arch Manning. During the game, I got a text from an NFL scout. He's like, that number 8 is pretty good. That number 8 is the guy. I was like, yes, his name is Arvell Reese. He's from Glenville. He's a junior. He's 6'4", 243 pounds. And you might want to pay attention to him because this might be his last season in Columbus.
Yeah, CJ Hicks, Sonny Styles is the one that everyone for years has talked about as this athletic marvel. And, oh, boy, what is he going to do at the next level? All of that remains true. But it's also maybe true about Arvell Reese. They have some really they played a Texas team that has some really good linebackers. Ohio State was not giving any ground in terms of linebacker talent in that matchup today.
No, and Sonny Styles, he was banged up a couple times in this game, slow to get off the field. I think slow to get up off the interception. There's also a play where one of the maybe the fourth down stop or one of the stops and towards the goal line, him and Lorenzo Styles are kind of the last two guys to get up off the field. And it's like, look at those two brothers probably wrestling inside of a scrum as well. Good game by Sonny. And I do wonder what kind of toll this game took on some people and how many guys might we not see next week.
Yeah, I am pretty confident you shouldn't see Kenyatta Jackson next week.
Correct.
You might just give Kenyatta Jackson the next 3 weeks off and just say, we'll see you in Seattle. And I think you're probably also going to see a little bit of some other guys, but not, sure. Let's see Sonny Styles, but let's see 10 snaps of Sonny Styles. Let's see, it's hard to understate how bad Grambling is in terms of, Grambling was, I think, 200th in SP Plus preseason, which means they're below some D2 teams in SP Plus, which is a tempo-free contextual computer ranking system from Bill Connolly from ESPN. That's pretty reputable. I think that maybe had Ohio State favored by 4 or 5, and like with the home field advantage, I think it was about a 7 point advantage. So it had this one pretty well nailed. But yeah, it is going to be it's not a football game next weekend. It is a band concert with some football surrounding it just for contract because the TV folks insist on it.
It's a spring game in September is basically what that is.
Robert Howard gifted some Buckeye Huddle memberships on YouTube, so thank you. Appreciate that.
We always appreciate that.
Mike says we need a dramatic Afro duck during field goals, just like the Golden Gopher scoreboard. Man,
that's a great idea. RIP Afro duck.
Do the kids today remember Afro duck?
The kids should. It was like 8 years ago, right?
This feels like one of those things This feels like something you're gonna Google, you're gonna realize that kids who are in college now were in like kindergarten or maybe preschool when Afro duck.
Please.
Passed to the great bread store.
Let me check his Wikipedia page. Oh my God.
Yes. Afro Duck died in January 2016. So we're coming up on 10 years. So, All right. So they were in second grade. Kids or third grade. So yes, the freshmen in college this year were in third grade when that happened. So yeah, it's been a minute.
Yes, that's terrible. Way to bring the show down. Appreciate
Mateo
that.
wants to know, how do I gift memberships to YouTube? Kevin shrugged, which I assume means he's going to look it up and figure out. So thank you, Kevin. We appreciate it.
Do you have to also be a member to gift memberships?
I don't. Maybe. Yeah, I saw someone. their comment real quick punched up about not being impressed with Manning, and I think that's fair. That's okay, but you don't. There's, I think, a line between I wasn't impressed with Arch Manning today and Arch Manning's never going to be good. Those are two different things. Arch Manning this was his first start against a real team, a team that's made up of actual football players. He had played ULM and a terrible, terrible Mississippi State team last year. I think I heard that the teams that he had played the most against in those 3 games, none of those teams were ranked above like 95th in defensive FEI. I mean, they were like all among the worst defenses in the country. So this was a very tough first, road, first real start for him. If this game was down in Austin and Ohio State had lost 14-7, we'd be saying all the same stuff about Julian Sayin. It's his first start. It's a tough environment. It's a good defense. It's week 1. You haven't gotten situated. You haven't got your feet under yourself yet. You're going to get better. You have to just understand the context around all that and say, he's probably going to be pretty good at some point. You can see, I mean, there was one play where he ran for, he picked up a first down. It might have been one where he ran for 13 or 15 yards, but he made Arvell Reese miss, and then he made someone else miss. Maybe Kenyatta Jackson. There were a couple, he made like 3 different Buckeyes miss going around the end. And it's like, and he's, and he can play quarterback. Like if you were running back and you made 3 guys miss like that, it'd be like, ooh, that's a nice play. He's a quarterback and he did that. Like that, this is, you can see it. It's in there. You just have to be a little bit patient. And I'm sure Texas fans, it's very easy to look at Julian Sayin and go, well, you need to be a little bit patient, and you can be real patient because they won the game. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's a little harder for Texas fans right now, but you have to be a little bit patient. This is going to be a little bit of a process.
Yeah. He was 17 of 30 for 170 yards, a touchdown and an interception. And I think in terms of, I wasn't impressed with him, or there were plays that were not impressive. He was inaccurate throughout the game. I also think, was he any different than, say, JT Barrett in terms of accuracy? No. We've gotten spoiled at Ohio State watching all of the accurate quarterbacks that we've seen over the years. But I think it was a normal inaccuracy day. However, what everybody has been promising, not Arch, not Steve Sarkisian, but all of the pundits were like, oh, this is the guy. It's Arch Manning. He's the Heisman favorite. He's the best player. I don't know if he's the best. He's at least a top 5 player right now. And my point all along was, how do you know? Right. What have you seen that has shown anything above what Garrett Nussmeier has done, Cade Klubnik has done, a number of other guys in the SEC or the Big Ten, Drew Aller? Like, what have you seen from him? Well, he was pretty good against Mississippi State. I'm sorry, that's not enough.
Right.
And so there's no way he could have lived up to the hype. Julian Sayin, 13 of 20, 126 yards, very pedestrian day. Nobody's saying, boy, what's wrong with that guy?
Right. Well, they won. So therefore and I think both guys should be getting treated exactly the same right now, which is, first real start in a first real big boy football game in a challenging environment against a good defense. You are not going to look like late 2022 CJ Stroud. Do you remember what CJ Stroud looked like in Minnesota in 2021? I mean, that was the first game post-COVID, and he had like a 70-yard pass on like a little swing pass or a screen or something, Travion Henderson, and he hit a couple other plays, but he had Chris Olave on that team. He had Garrett Wilson on that team. I mean, that was a loaded team. Jackson Smith-Njigba. He had a freshman Travion Henderson.
I believe he was 13 of 22 in that game. And as I check myself right now, 13 of 22, but 294 yards.
Right. But 59% completions, 13.4 yards per attempt, which it helps a lot when you have you throw the ball 3 yards in the air and then Travion Henderson goes 7. That helps a lot, but 70. But 59% completions and Julian Sayin 65% completions today against a much better defense. So
with several drops.
Yeah.
So you get really without the drops. I think I said this was Kevin. It's probably 16 of 20 for like 160 yards. And very still 80% completion, but the yardage, he took what they gave him.
Yeah.
Didn't press anything. Again, only maybe 9 possessions, 4 in the first half, and maybe did they have 5 real possessions in the second half? The way and Texas at least was trying to go fast so that Ohio State would maybe get, not for Ohio State's sake,
right?
But,
yeah. They had 9 real possessions outside of the kneel down at the end of the half and the kneel downs at the end of the game. They had 4 in the first half and 5 in the second half.
The days of 600 yards of total offense.
Well, and
outside of next week,
Ohio State was perfectly happy to just hang on to the ball, don't make a mistake, punt, play field position. I mean, this was Jim Tressel was here. I'm sure Jim Tressel had a little tear in his eye watching a 14-7 game. Texas, the other piece of it was Texas. When Texas had 2 drives that went 15 plays, 70 yards, ended on downs. 13 plays, 76 yards, ended on downs. That was 12 minutes of the second half was those 2 drives that Texas got nothing, 0 points on. And then they had 6 plays, 38 yards that ended on downs. They had a drive in the first half. They had drives that ended on downs on the OSU 42, the 1-yard line, the 9-yard line, and the 47-yard line. 4 drives that ended in Ohio State territory on downs. That goal line stand, by the way.
Yeah.
That goal line stand was Ohio State's had a couple goal line stands in the last year and this year now. You had the one, the Jack Sawyer one, obviously, last year. They had a great one against Penn State. I mean, they've had some great goal line stands that, when you read about the Ohio State-Michigan games from the 1970s, there are these legendary goal line stands. I don't know what it is, if it's just that, that people were writing stuff down in books and then that became the common shared wisdom. Now it feels like these are all games are a little more disposable for whatever reason. And it kind of gets forgotten a little bit, but they've had some really huge goal line stands against really good opponents in the last year or so.
Well, and you'll see every now and again on Twitter, it'll pop up 4 photos of these goal line stands, and it's 0 points were scored in all of these. And it's they should have been. And again, Caden McDonald and Caden Curry, all of the Cadens were good in the scrums with those short yardage stuff.
Sark said that he thought that they just Ohio State's guys just got up underneath the Texas offensive line and just cut Arch's legs out from under him. Never had a chance to do it. He said they had been very effective in, I guess in practice with sneaks in those kind of situations. And, he said that their mindset was, don't let Ohio State sub big dudes in. It was, it was a half-yard line or whatever it was. Hustle up the line and just go, line up and go. And Ohio State won at the point of attack. That's low man wins, as they say.
Yeah. Elizabeth gifting 5 Ohio State football at Buckeye Huddle memberships. Thank you for that as well.
Yeah, Jamel, thank you for doing 10. Appreciate that.
And then there's a super chat that I wanted to get to because of all of the changes today. This one angered me. This is the only thing that angered me today.
Did they not do knocker ball?
They did knocker ball, but they did it from about 10 feet away. And it's they put 4 people in there, as always. They didn't run from the sidelines. They legitimately were maybe 10 yards away from each other. So they could not build up any speed. They could not build up any violence, Kevin.
What about during the race when knocker ball sent the guy flying?
Now, I don't know. You guys can tell me. Did you guys see that when they had there was a race? And
was it the Brutus race?
Yes, I may have been the Brutus race. But then the guy in the Texas shirt got absolutely debacled by somebody in a knocker ball. Now
we love a good plant, don't we, folks?
And yes, that was a plant. I don't want to get too involved, but
how
let's
deep
just
does
say,
the conspiracy go,
let's
Tony?
just say the Ohio State marketing people will take one for the team. And he did. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if anybody saw if that was. I don't know why that would be on TV when it was just a thing. But if anybody got that, he got depleted, and he's probably thinking, "I'm glad this is weekend double pay," because he did not look too happy coming off of the sideline.
Knocker ball from CDEC is Mike's suggestion. Yeah, I came out of I had run back to that happened right after some big play. So I'm like hustling back to send photos back or something like that. And so I missed the knocker ball. I missed the Brutus race. I missed all the action. All I got to watch was the football.
Yeah, and again, the knocker ball, and they didn't even do it as long. I think they realized this isn't very good. Let's just scrap it. It was bad, and I feel bad for the people, mostly myself, because we look forward to knocker ball. We look forward to people running 50 yards and crashing into each other, not this patty cake stuff that they had going today. I'm glad Jim Tressel was there so that he could see this and get the government involved, go to the very top if he needs to be, bring back the old knocker ball. Tradition evolved, no. Tradition back. I need my knocker ball.
Do what you will with the victory bell,
right?
And hang on,
Archie,
Sloopy. But beloved tradition, knocker ball. Please, come on. Let's recognize what is sacred around here.
Yes, please.
Do we have questions that we want to get to, or are we?
I got a couple. I mean, we were joking. It's like, do we go 2 hours? Do we go an hour? When did we go here?
Yeah.
We've gone well over an hour. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Jason Manley says, preface, I'm an idiot. Is it me or does Arch Manning have terrible throwing mechanics? We talked about this a little earlier. I keep getting told mechanics are the legs, and you're driving with your legs, and you're using your whole body, and your throwing can be from wherever, and you can throw off platform and it's fine. And that, as long as your base is good, the arm is more, you're just sort of like that. That's window dressing more than anything else. That I keep getting told that, so that's fine. I'm not a QB guru, but that's what I've been told.
So this from Greg Harvey on Twitter at Between the Nums, NUMS. Teams in the last 30 seasons to hold an AP number 1 team to 7 or fewer points while having 0 turnovers on offense. Ohio State today, Alabama in that slugfest against LSU in 2012, and then Kansas State versus Oklahoma in 2003.
Oh, in the Big 12 championship
That's
game,
it.
that was the game right before they played Ohio State in the before K-State played Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl. Yeah,
Lots of punching and fighting, and just like football wise, in those games, impressive.
Yeah. Joe Ressa says Dave Portnoy does not know good pizza. Can I give my Dave Portnoy speech here?
Yes, please. Because yes, okay. I will also say. At one point, I tweeted, awful announcing, tweeted out some video of it. I haven't watched any of the video yet, but I could tell it wasn't good. And I just said, good content, Fox, to which Portnoy then retweeted it saying, cry harder or something to that effect. So, yes, I'm out here crying harder. Please, whatever you want to say, defend me a little bit.
Okay. So when you are a TV station, TV network, and you bring in someone like that, why are you bringing them in? You're bringing them in for attention. If you're giving them attention, you're rewarding that behavior. So you have 2 choices. One is, if you don't want Dave Portnoy to come back to Ohio State, there are 2 things you can do. One is you just don't show up the next time. You don't give it any oxygen. You just, if they show up and there's 13 people behind them, and guess what? Okay, that's fine. Like, you already hate them because they put your games on at noon. Just don't show up. Don't show up. Don't watch it. Like, that's it. And you can make it clear, I'm not doing this because of that. Just the best thing you can do, though, is just don't do anything. The number 2 thing, Tony, is George Carlin. You're familiar with George Carlin?
Yes.
He has a list of words you can't say on TV. You could also show up en masse, choose one of those words, say the person's name, and do that loudly together for 3 hours. I would pretty much guarantee it would only take like once or twice of that. Yeah. I mean, you can, and I'm not endorsing either of these plans. I'm just saying, and listen, there are many good chance if someone's name, first and last name, is 3 syllables, and you pick one of those George Carlin words, there's some very natural chance that you could sustain as an audience for 3 hours loudly. That would probably make it clear to them that this person is no longer welcome, or even just ignore them. Either one. I'm not endorsing either of them. I'm just saying, if you want to do it, either one of those will solve your problem. Talking about it online, going, this makes me mad, that just rewards the behavior.
So you're suggesting don't do what I do. Instead, So
I'm just saying, as a person who understands how this works, there are two ways you can solve this problem. You pick whichever one you want to do, but you got to commit to the bit. Either you don't show up or you really show up. You really show up.
Ooh,
and show's only what, 3 hours? You can yell for 3 hours.
Well, even like in wrestling when they drop F-bombs and
no one said. I just said George Carlin. I didn't say. No one said.
I'm just for an example of a word that is not allowed. There's
fire,
silence.
Is that the F word?
And like it gets dumped, and you can't dump a show because then it becomes unwatchable. So if you have to keep dumping a show, and again, nobody's saying go do this, but it is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you can solve. Creative problem solving, Tony, is
that is creative.
It is creative. Jordan Kapler says it's getting ugly in Tallahassee, almost as ugly as. I'll let you finish that sentence.
I'm not doing any of that. But
24/7
as
24/7
as
Florida
Alabama's
State,
offense.
Boy, the drives for Florida State. I mean, Alabama had 16 plays, 75 yards on that opening touchdown drive, missed a field goal on the second one, and then has had a couple 6-play drives after that. 775 for Florida State, 865, 952, 5 for 15 before halftime, 5 for 16, but then 2 for 68 for another touchdown after halftime.
Tommy C talked some good smack before the game, and he's lived up to
Tommy
it.
Castellanos, man, that is. Well, certainly, Tony, they won't play They play a finer quarterback than Tommy Castellanos in SEC play. So,
That's true.
And also, it's now the third quarter of week 1. So I'm reminded, while we're in the Dave Portnoy headspace, I'm reminded of a great Clay Travis tweet from 2014 where it was September 6th or something like that. And it was like after Ohio State had lost to Virginia Tech and Michigan had lost to someone and Penn State had lost to someone. And he said it's September 8th or whatever it is. And the Big Ten has been eliminated from national championship contention. Tony, how did the 2014 NCAA season end?
Well, in fact, the Ohio State Buckeyes, who were not eliminated from playoff contention, did win the playoffs. Tom, were there some elements that you needed to run through? Anything else that you wanted to?
I did want to give. We have a soundbite that's labeled as Sark on the offensive game plan, and I thought that this was something that he talked about that was kind of interesting, where he was discussing sort of how they went about what they were doing and how they came in, because he felt like, if he'd run Arch Manning a little more in the first half, that might have helped a little bit. Yeah. But sort of the thinking behind how they came in here, what they were sort of expecting from Matt Patricia. So let's run that one.
I just felt like, hey, I was going to try to do some things that I felt like he was really comfortable with in practice, with the unknowing of how they were going to play us, and what they were going to do. And so I don't feel bad necessarily about the plan. Like I said, I think I probably would have incorporated him running the ball more earlier in the game, and maybe that would have settled him down more. But I think the things we had up, we felt good about. I think there's probably some throws in the first half if he could have back. Right? If we call those same things in the second half, he probably makes a couple of those throws, and that may change some things there too. But that was expectable. But like I said, you go in, you try to put your players in position to have some success. We didn't have as much as we would have liked, especially in the first half. But I think we're learning a little better formula for him, which in turn is better for our offense and ultimately better for the team.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. All right, so there you go, Steve Sarkisian's thoughts on the game plan there and what went into it. And I think both teams kind of came in with a little bit of a similar idea. There's, don't try and go crazy. A little bit of a feeling out period. Just don't make the big mistake.
I'm fascinated to see what the approach is if they play again, just to see the different styles that we might see from them.
Yeah. All right. So I want to get to a couple graphics that we got here. Buckeye quarterback opener debuts. So 2025 Julian Sayin versus Texas, 13 for 20, 126 yards, a touchdown, no turnovers, I think, which is the key line there. 2024 Will Howard versus Akron. versus Akron feels like it's doing kind of most of the lifting there. 2023, Kyle McCord versus Notre Dame, 20 of 33, 239 yards and an interception, and almost had a second interception. They won that one. CJ Stroud versus Minnesota, we talked about that one earlier. Justin Fields versus Florida Atlantic. I mean, shiny numbers, but it's Florida Atlantic. Dwayne Haskins versus Oregon State, and that was 313 yards and 5 touchdowns. But that was a game where they gave up 31 points, so they needed to keep the pedal down for quite a while. Cardell Jones versus Virginia Tech. You may remember that one. JT Barrett versus Navy. Oh, man, that was another one. That was a humdinger of a game. 12 of 15, 226 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick, 9 carries, 50 yards. Braxton Miller versus Miami of Ohio. Lots of numbers, but versus Miami of Ohio, and then Terrell Pryor against Navy. And that was another one where there's what really strikes me there is you look at the quality of the teams there, and there's at Notre Dame against Texas, and then a bunch of something, 7 and 5 or worse types of teams there.
This was a tough ask, and he handled it perfectly.
Yeah, for sure. Looking at some of the defensive stats from the game, Davis Igbenogson, 10 tackles. We have not talked about him at all. He had a nice game, no penalties as far as I am aware, and had the big play on 4th down. And man, when he got up, that was an enthusiastic celebration. That was a happy Davis Igbenogson.
That was one where you're also looking around for flags, either at the line of scrimmage or wherever.
Yeah.
I did not like that play call. I thought, that was a 4th and 3 from like the 8 or whatever. It's like, go ahead and just pick up the first down. You don't need to be thrown into the end zone.
Yeah. Arvell Reese, 9 tackles. Jalen McClain, real solid game from Jalen McClain, 8 tackles. Caden McDonald, 7, and another Lorenzo Styles, 7 tackles. Caden Curry, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs. I mean, it was a really good defensive effort, and there were a bunch of people who we've seen people in the comments on YouTube and people on our board asking, "Oh boy, how sure are you that this guy is going to be okay?" And it was a really solid overall performance, I thought.
Caden McDonald, career high, previously was 3 tackles.
Wow.
And he had 5 at the half.
Yeah. Yep. And then last one I want to hit is receiving stats. CJ Donaldson had a catch for 9 yards. I don't know that picture is from early in the game, so you can't see. CJ Donaldson, how hard they ran CJ Donaldson. The front of his jersey looked like he had played on a wet grass field, like muddy grass field. He fell forward a lot.
Yeah, he did.
Man, he got battered quite a bit. But yeah, had a nice play in the receiving game as well. Max Clare, only 1 catch for 11 yards, but they went to him. They were looking for him on one of the early 3rd downs, and it was just out of bounds. Jeremiah Smith, 6 catches, 43 yards, 10 targets. I would take 10 targets for Jeremiah Smith in every game. You're going to get a lot more than 43 yards out of most of those games, but that was he was not huge numbers, top line numbers, but man, there were just a couple times where it was like, boy, this is a big play, and then there's Jeremiah Smith and 9 yards, but it was a first down.
Yeah, and they would keep him short at times because they knew you're no use going over the top. So let's just get him the ball and have him pick up the 7 yards if that's what they needed.
Yep. Brandon Ennis, 2 catches, 8 yards. Carnell Tate, 2 catches, 49 yards. That big one. I mean, both of those catches were big. I mean, the touchdown's the obvious one, but the other one was kind of a low-key, real important play for them as well.
For sure. Julian Sayin scrambling out of the end zone, and most guys would probably thrown it away or thrown it back over the middle, and he put it right where Carnell Tate could get it, and they got a first down out of it.
Yep. I think we are good. Are we caught up on Super Chats? We are good.
All right. Then if we are caught up, then we will go ahead and thank you all. And if you have not hit the thumbs up, we would appreciate you doing that. And, of course, continue to find us over at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We're going to be talking about this one for a while. And you can find us there at the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. We'd love to see you there. It's the absolute best way to support what we do. Thank you all for the Super Chats. Thank you all for the memberships. And we will talk to you guys later.